The moment Lena Hart opened that blood-stained note, she had exactly 47 seconds to live. She didn't know it yet, couldn't have known, but the life she'd fought so hard to build was about to shatter like glass under a hammer. The necklace burning against her skin wasn't just jewelry. The silent boy clinging to her hand wasn't just an orphan. And the man in the black suit watching from the corner booth? He wasn't there to save her. He was there to decide if she was worth saving. Stay with me until the end of this story. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this tale travels. The rain came down like bullets on Chicago's south side, turning the streets into rivers of neon and grime. Inside Rosie's diner, a grease-stained relic that had survived 3 recessions and countless health inspections, Lena Hart moved between tables with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd learned to be invisible. "Coffee's cold," a truck driver grunted, not looking up from his phone. "I'll get you a fresh cup," Lena said, her voice flat. She'd learned years ago that apologies invited conversation, and conversation led to questions she couldn't answer. Behind her, tucked into the corner booth that nobody ever sat in, a small boy traced patterns in the condensation on the window. Evan. 6 years old, dark-haired, and silent as a grave. He'd been with her for 8 months now, and in all that time he'd never spoken a single word. The diner's fluorescent lights flickered. They always did around midnight, casting everything in a sickly yellow glow. Lena's reflection in the chrome napkin dispenser showed a woman of 27 who looked 40. Hollow cheeks, dark circles, hair pulled back so tight it made her temples ache. The necklace at her throat was the only thing about her that didn't look cheap, a delicate silver chain with an ornate locket she'd worn since childhood, though she couldn't remember who'd given it to her. "Lena, table 6 needs pie," Marcus, the night manager, barked from behind the counter. He was a heavy man with sweat stains and a gambling problem, and he'd been watching her differently lately, more carefully, like she was a horse he was considering selling. She grabbed the cherry pie from the warmer, noting how Marcus's eyes followed her movements. Something was wrong. The realization settled in her gut like ice water. The diner's door chimed. Lena looked up and froze. A man stepped inside, and the temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. He wore a black suit that cost more than she made in 6 months, perfectly tailored, not a drop of rain on him despite the downpour outside. His face was sharp angles and cold precision. Korean features, she thought, but it was his eyes that made her breath catch. They were the eyes of a predator, scanning the diner with mechanical efficiency. Those eyes locked onto her. Her hand trembled, nearly dropping the pie. The man moved to the booth directly across from Evan, never breaking eye contact with her. He sat with his back to the wall, a position that let him see both the entrance and the kitchen. Professional. Deliberate. Can I get you something?" Lena approached slowly, every instinct screaming at her to run. Up close, he was younger than she'd first thought, maybe 35. A thin scar ran along his jawline, barely visible. His hands rested on the table, steady and still, but she noticed the calluses on his knuckles. Fighter's hands. Coffee. Black. His accent was faint, American-educated, but with something else underneath. His gaze shifted to Evan for just a moment, then back to her. "The boy. He's yours?" "He's with me." The defensive edge in her voice surprised her. "That's not what I asked." Lena's pulse hammered. "Look, mister, I don't know what—" "You have a necklace?" He cut her off, his voice quiet but absolute. "Silver, ornate locket. You've worn it every day since you were 7 years old, even though you don't remember receiving it." The blood drained from her face. "How do you—" 3 minutes from now, a man will walk through that door. He'll order coffee, sit at the counter, and wait for you to turn your back. When you do, he'll put 2 bullets in your spine and 1 in the boy's head. Your manager, Marcus, sold you for $30,000 this morning. The world tilted. Lena grabbed the edge of the booth to steady herself. "You're insane. Look at Marcus." Against her better judgment, she did. Marcus stood behind the counter, phone pressed to his ear, eyes darting toward the door every few seconds. His free hand kept disappearing into his apron pocket, touching something, checking it was still there. "He's been on that call for 6 minutes, the stranger continued, confirming you're still here, confirming the boy is with you. He's already been paid half. He gets the rest when you're dead." This isn't... Lena couldn't form words. The diner suddenly felt smaller, the walls pressing in. The man reached into his jacket. Lena flinched, but he only pulled out a slip of paper, sliding it across the table. She didn't want to look at it. Looking at it would make this real. She looked. The note was written in shaky handwriting, and there were dark brown stains along one edge. Dried blood. Run. Back door. Trust the Korean. M.H. What is this? Her voice cracked. Who's M.H.? Someone who died trying to warn you. The man glanced at his watch. 2 minutes. This is insane. I'm calling the cops. Detective Howard, 5th District. He's one of theirs. So is his partner, Chen. You call the police, you die faster. The stranger's eyes never wavered. The necklace you're wearing is worth $5 billion. Not the metal. What's inside it? Your entire life has been a cover story to keep you alive long enough to access it when you turn 27. That deadline passed 4 days ago. Now everyone wants you dead before someone else gets to you first. Lena's hand flew to the locket, clutching it. It was warm against her palm, familiar, safe. You're lying. I wish I was. The diner door chimed again. A man entered. Average height, forgettable face, wearing a rain-slicked jacket. He ordered coffee from Marcus, sat at the counter, and didn't look at her once. The stranger in the black suit stood smoothly, buttoning his jacket. I'm walking out the back door in 10 seconds. You and the boy can come with me, or you can stay and find out if I'm lying. Your choice, Miss Hart. But choose fast. He moved toward the kitchen without waiting for an answer. Lena looked at Evan. The boy was watching her with those huge dark eyes that had seen too much. He'd been found in an alley behind a warehouse 3 blocks from here, covered in blood that wasn't his, surrounded by 3 dead men in suits. The police hadn't been able to identify him. No missing persons reports matched. No one came looking. She'd taken him home that night because no one else would. Lena, Marcus called. Need you up front. The man at the counter reached into his jacket. Lena made her choice. She grabbed Evan's hand and ran. The kitchen was a maze of stainless steel and steam. The stranger moved through it like smoke, pushing open the back door just as Lena heard Marcus shout behind them. The cool night air hit her face, rain immediately soaking through her uniform. Car's there. The stranger pointed to a black sedan idling in the alley. No plates. Get in. I don't even know your name. Kang Jae-hyun, get in the car, Lena. The back door of the diner exploded outward. The man from the counter emerged, gun already raised. Lena saw it clearly in the amber alley light. Matte black, professional, equipped with a suppressor. She'd never seen a real gun before. Now she was staring down the barrel of one. Jae-hyun moved. It happened so fast Lena's mind couldn't process it. One moment the gunman was taking aim, the next Jae-hyun was inside his guard, one hand controlling the weapon, the other a blur of motion. There was a wet crack, bone-breaking, and the gun clattered to the pavement. The gunman tried to scream. Jae-hyun's hand clamped over his mouth, and there was another sound, quieter, final. The body slumped. 8 seconds. The entire fight took 8 seconds. Jae-hyun retrieved the gun, checked its magazine with practiced ease, and looked at Lena. His expression hadn't changed at all. Car. Now. This time she didn't argue. The sedan's interior smelled like leather and gun oil. Evan climbed in beside her, still silent, but his small hand found hers and squeezed. The driver, another Asian man, younger, with nervous eyes, pulled away from the alley before Lena had even closed her door. Seatbelt, Jae-hyun said from the front passenger seat, scanning the street with mechanical efficiency. Lena buckled Evan in with shaking hands, then herself. Where are we going? Somewhere they won't look for you tonight. Who's they? Everyone who knows what's around your neck. Jae-hyun turned to look at her fully for the first time. The Antonov Syndicate, the Jade Union, the Santiago Cartel, every major criminal organization in North America, and several from overseas. They've all been waiting for this week, Lena. Waiting for you to be activated. Activated? I'm not a weapon or something. I'm a waitress. You're a vault. His voice was matter-of-fact, almost gentle. A very well-protected vault that someone spent 20 years programming to open. The city blurred past the windows. They were heading north, away from her neighborhood, into areas she'd never been. Towers of glass and steel rose against the storm clouds. Evan tugged at her sleeve, pointing at something. She followed his gaze to see 3 black SUVs running parallel to them, 2 blocks over. Jae-hyun saw them too. "Jin, we have company." The driver's knuckles went white on the steering wheel. "I see them." "Can you lose them?" "In this traffic? No. But I can get us to the safe house in 6 minutes if—" The rear window exploded. Lena screamed, throwing herself over Evan as glass rained down. The car swerved violently, Jin cursing in Korean as he fought the wheel. More shots, at least a dozen, perforated the trunk, the roof, everywhere. "Stay down!" Jae-hyun barked. He'd produced another gun from somewhere, rolling down his window with impossible calm as their car fishtailed through a red light. The SUVs were gaining, black and predatory. Lena caught a glimpse of men leaning out windows with automatic weapons, and her mind went blank with terror. Jae-hyun returned fire with surgical precision. 2 shots. One of the SUV's tires exploded, sending it careening into a parked delivery truck. The other 2 kept coming. "Jin, I need the river route." "That's 12 minutes out of the way. We can't lead them to the house. River route, now." The sedan took a hard right, tires screaming. Lena held Evan so tight she worried she might hurt him, but the boy didn't make a sound. His face was buried in her shoulder, small body trembling. They raced down Lower Wacker Drive, the Chicago River a black ribbon to their left. The SUVs followed, muzzle flashes lighting up the tunnel like lightning. "Jin, on my mark, hard left into the emergency access tunnel." "Sir, that's on my mark." Jae-hyun fired again, controlled bursts. Another SUV's windshield spiderwebbed, the vehicle slowing. 3, 2, mark! Jin wrenched the wheel. The sedan slid sideways into a tunnel Lena hadn't even seen, concrete walls so close she could touch them. The remaining SUV tried to follow, but was going too fast. It clipped the tunnel entrance, metal shrieking, and spun out behind them. Darkness swallowed them. Jin killed the headlights, navigating by memory through absolute blackness. Lena couldn't see her own hand in front of her face. After an eternity, they emerged into an underground parking structure. Jin pulled into a corner spot, killed the engine, and sat there breathing hard. Silence. Just the tick of the cooling engine and Evan's soft breathing against Lena's chest. "Everyone alive?" Jae-hyun asked calmly, as if they'd just finished a Sunday drive. "I think I'm going to be sick," Lena whispered. Understandable. First firefight is always the worst. She stared at the back of his head. "How are you so calm?" "Practice." He opened his door, surveying the parking structure. "Jin, call for cleanup. We'll need a new vehicle and a trauma team at location 7. "Trauma team?" Lena's heart lurched. "Is someone hurt?" Jae-hyun turned, and she saw it. Blood seeping through his jacket, left side just below his ribs. He'd been shot. "It's superficial," he said, noting her expression. "Through and through. I've had worse." "You've been shot and you're acting like it's nothing." "Because it is nothing." He stepped out of the car, moving with only the slightest hitch in his gait. "Come on. We need to change vehicles before they widen the search grid." Lena climbed out on shaking legs, still holding Evan. The boy's eyes were huge, reflecting the parking structure's dim lights, but he wasn't crying. He should be crying. A normal child would be hysterical. What had this boy seen before she found him? A black van pulled up minutes later. How had they arranged that so fast? And they transferred to it. This driver was a woman, older, with gray-streaked hair and the same professional calm as Jae-hyun. "Casualties?" she asked in accented English. "None on our side. 3 enemy vehicles disabled. 1 driver confirmed dead, unknown additional casualties." The woman nodded and drove. Lena watched the city pass by. Her city. Now alien and threatening. Every car could be following them. Every pedestrian could be a spotter. The necklace at her throat felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. "My apartment," she said suddenly. "I have things there. Pictures. Evans, your apartment burned down 40 minutes ago," Jae-hyun interrupted. "Electrical fire, according to the report that will be filed tomorrow. Your landlord and 2 neighbors were already dead when it started." The words took a moment to penetrate. When they did, Lena's vision swam. Mrs. Chen, she babysat Evan sometimes. She was 73 years old. "I'm sorry." And he sounded like he meant it. "They're being thorough." Who's doing this? I told you, everyone. Jae-hyun winced slightly, pressing a hand to his side. The question isn't who wants you dead. It's who wants you dead the most urgently. They drove for another 20 minutes, ending up in an industrial area on the city's edge. The van pulled into a warehouse that looked abandoned from the outside but had clearly been fortified within. Steel-reinforced doors, camera systems. Armed men in tactical gear who nodded respectfully as Jae-hyun stepped out. This wasn't a safe house. This was a fortress. This way. Jae-hyun led them through a maze of corridors to a surprisingly comfortable room. Bed, couch, attached bathroom. You'll stay here tonight. Don't leave this room. Don't open the door for anyone but me. There's food in the mini fridge and clothes in the dresser that should fit well enough. Lena set Evan down on the couch, her mind still reeling. And then what? What happens tomorrow? Tomorrow we find out what's in that locket. Jae-hyun paused at the door. Get some rest, Lena. You're going to need it. Wait. She caught his arm, then immediately released it when she felt the tension in his muscles, like touching a coiled spring. Why are you helping me? What do you get out of this? His expression was unreadable. Let's just say I have an investment in keeping you alive long enough to open that necklace. So you want what's inside too? Everyone wants what's inside. He met her eyes. The difference is, I need you alive to get it. Everyone else just needs your corpse and a good locksmith. With that cheerful thought, he left. Lena locked the door behind him, tested it twice, then slid down to sit with her back against it. Her whole body was shaking now, adrenaline crash hitting her like a truck. Evan climbed off the couch and came to sit beside her. He didn't say anything, he never did, but he leaned his small weight against her side, his presence the only solid thing in a world that had just dissolved into chaos. We're okay, Lena whispered, more to herself than him. We're going to be okay. But as she touched the locket at her throat, she knew she was lying. She must have dozed off against the door because the next thing she knew, Evan was shaking her shoulder and pale morning light was filtering through the frosted window near the ceiling. Someone was knocking. Lena scrambled to her feet, heart hammering. Who is it? Medical team, a woman's voice answered. Mr. Kang sent us. I'm not hurt. Not for you, for the boy. Lena looked down at Evan, who seemed fine. But then she noticed what she'd missed last night in the chaos. A bruise forming on his left arm, finger-shaped. Someone had grabbed him, hard. She opened the door a crack, chain still engaged. Two women stood there in scrubs, one Asian, one black, both with ID badges clipped to their pockets. Behind them, one of the armed guards from last night stood watch. May we come in? The Asian woman asked. I'm Dr. Park. This is Nurse Williams. We just need to do a quick examination, make sure the boy wasn't injured in the vehicle pursuit. Lena looked at the guard. He nodded once. She let them in. Dr. Park was gentle with Evan, speaking to him in soft tones, even though he never responded. She checked his vitals, examined the bruise, looked in his eyes and ears. He's physically fine, she announced. The bruising will fade in a few days, but Miss Hart, has he always been nonverbal? Since I found him, yeah. Is something wrong with him? Not wrong, but selective mutism in children this age is usually a trauma response. He's seen or experienced something that made him shut down. Dr. Park packed away her instruments. Has he been evaluated by a child psychologist? Lena laughed, a bitter sound. On a waitress's salary? I could barely afford the pediatrician. I see. The doctor exchanged a look with Nurse Williams. Well, he's in good health otherwise, strong vitals. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. After they left, Lena found the mini fridge. Someone had stocked it with juice boxes, fruit, sandwiches, and bizarrely, gourmet chocolate. She gave Evan a juice box and a sandwich, then tried to eat one herself, but her stomach rebelled after 2 bites. The necklace mocked her from where it rested against her collarbone. $5 billion. The number was incomprehensible. She made $30,000 a year when tips were good. She'd never seen $1,000 in one place, let alone $1 billion. Who had put this around her neck? She tried to remember being 7 years old, tried to remember receiving this necklace, but there was nothing, just a blank space where the memory should be. Her childhood was a series of foster homes and group facilities, each one bleeding into the next. She'd aged out of the system at 18 with $200 and a garbage bag full of donated clothes. No parents, no family, no one who'd cared if she lived or died. Until now, apparently. Now everyone cared, just not in the way that would keep her breathing. A knock at the door made her jump. "It's me." Jae-hyun's voice. She opened it. He looked different in daylight, or what passed for daylight in this windowless warren. Still dangerous, but she could see the exhaustion around his eyes now. He'd changed clothes, the blood-stained suit replaced by dark tactical pants and a fitted black shirt that showed the bandaging beneath. "How's your side?" she asked. "Fine. How are you?" "I don't know. Ask me when I can think straight." She stepped back to let him in. "Are we safe here?" "For now. This location isn't in any database, and I own it through 7 shell corporations." He glanced at Evan, who was absorbed in drawing on a notepad someone had left. "We need to talk about the necklace." "What's there to talk about? You want me to open it, see what's inside, then what? You take it and I'm useless to everyone, so they stop hunting me?" "It's not that simple." "It never is." Jae-hyun pulled up a chair, sitting across from her. "What do you know about your parents?" "Nothing. I was found in a church parking lot when I was 3. No ID. Couldn't tell anyone my real name. Just kept saying Lena over and over. They ran my DNA, fingerprints, everything. No matches. I was a ghost." "You weren't a ghost. You were hidden." He pulled out a tablet, swiped through several files. "Your real name is Lena Mikhailovna Volkov. Your father was Mikhail Volkov, head of the Volkov organization, one of the largest criminal syndicates in Eastern Europe. Your mother was Sarah Chen, daughter of the Jade Union's founder." The room tilted. "That's not... I would remember. They performed a partial memory wipe when you were 3. Experimental procedure, highly illegal, but effective. They needed you to forget who you were, forget your family, forget everything that could lead someone back to you." Lena's hand went to her head, as if she could feel the violation there. "Why?" "Because your parents stole something. Well, your mother did, technically. $5 billion in cryptocurrency. Siphoned from every major criminal organization they'd ever worked with or against. She hid it so thoroughly that even the best hackers in the world couldn't find it. The only access point is a 32-digit code stored in 3 parts. He tapped the tablet screen, showing her an image of the locket around her neck. Part 1 is in that necklace. Part 2 was kept by your mother, Part 3 by your father. The plan was simple. When you turned 27, they'd find you, reunite the pieces, and disappear with enough money to live like kings for 10 lifetimes. What happened to them? Jae-hyun's expression darkened. Your mother was killed 7 years ago in Prague, tortured for information she wouldn't give up, even at the end. Your father... He paused. Your father is still alive. Hope flared in Lena's chest, painful and bright. Where? That's complicated. Everything with you is complicated. Where is my father? In a psychiatric facility in upstate New York, under a false name. The memory wipe he authorized for you, they performed the same procedure on him after your mother died. But his didn't work as cleanly. He remembers fragments. Sometimes he knows who he is, sometimes he doesn't. He's been there for 6 years, completely unaware that he's sitting on the second piece of a $5 billion code. Lena stood, needing to move, to pace, to do something with the energy screaming through her veins. So what you're saying is, even if I open this necklace and find the first code, it's useless without the other 2 pieces. Correct. And one piece is locked in my father's broken mind, and the other was buried with my mother. Also correct. She laughed, wild and slightly unhinged. So why is everyone trying to kill me? I'm worthless without the other pieces. Because, Jae-hyun said quietly, your father isn't as secure as I made him sound. 3 different organizations have tried to extract him in the last month alone. And your mother's grave, it's been excavated 4 times. Whatever she hid with her body, someone's getting close to finding it. But they haven't found it yet. No, which means you're still the most valuable piece on the board. The one everyone can access, if they're fast enough. He stood as well, moving closer. Lena, I'm going to be blunt. You have 3 choices. 1, you can run. I'll give you new identities for you and Evan. Money, a head start. You'll live maybe 6 months before someone tracks you down and puts a bullet in your head. 2. You can surrender to one of the major organizations. Tell them you'll help them get all 3 code pieces in exchange for your life in Evans. They'll agree, use you, and then kill you the moment you've served your purpose. Or 3. Stay. 3? She prompted when he trailed off. 3. You work with me. We get all 3 code pieces before anyone else does, access the funds, and use that leverage to negotiate a truce. $5 billion is enough to buy your way out of this war. And what do you get? His smile was sharp. 40%. $2 billion for me. $3 billion for you and Evan. Enough for all of us to disappear properly. Lena studied him. This man who'd killed to protect her, who'd been shot for her, who somehow knew everything about a past she couldn't remember. Why should I trust you? You shouldn't, but I'm the only option you have that doesn't end with your death. He extended his hand. So what's it going to be, Lena Volkov? Die a waitress or live a queen? She looked at his hand for a long moment, then at Evan, still drawing quietly on his notepad, the boy who'd seen horrors she could only imagine. The boy who deserved better than to die in a warehouse because Lena's parents had played games with billions of dollars. She took Jae-hyun's hand. Let's be queens then. His smile widened. Good, because we start in 3 hours, and the first person we need to rob is a psychiatric hospital. The facility was called Clearwater Pines, which was ironic because there was no water and only 2 pine trees visible from the parking lot. It sat on 30 acres of manicured lawn upstate, the kind of place where wealthy families hid their embarrassments behind pleasant architecture and higher walls. Lena sat in the passenger seat of yet another black sedan. Jae-hyun seemed to have an endless supply, watching the building with mounting anxiety. My father's in there, she said, testing the words. They felt foreign in her mouth. 4th floor, East Wing, room 412. He's registered as Michael Vincent, former accountant, early onset dementia. Jae-hyun consulted his tablet. He has good days and bad days. On good days, he plays chess with the orderlies and wins. On bad days, he doesn't remember his own name. And today? We won't know until we see him. Evan was asleep in the back seat, exhausted from the long drive. They'd left him with Jin and 2 armed guards in the parking lot, which had made Lena's chest tight with anxiety, but Jae-hyun assured her the boy would be safer there than inside. How are we getting in? She asked. We can't just walk up and ask to see him. We don't need to. Jae-hyun produced 2 ID badges from his jacket. Dr. Sarah Cho and Dr. James Park, consulting psychiatrists from Johns Hopkins. We have an appointment to evaluate patient Vincent regarding a potential transfer. Oh, Lena stared at the IDs. They looked completely authentic, complete with holographic seals. How did you... I have resources. He handed her one of the badges. Clip this on, look confident, and let me do the talking. If anyone asks you a direct question, give a vague medical answer and defer to me. Can you do that? I don't know. Can I? Lena. He turned to face her fully. I know you're scared. I know this is overwhelming, but you need to hold it together for the next hour. Your father is the key to everything. If we can get the second code from him, we're halfway to ending this. She took a deep breath, clipped on the badge. Okay, I'm ready. They weren't ready. The facility's lobby was all soft colors and calming music designed to soothe worried families. The receptionist, a woman in her 50s with kind eyes, smiled as they approached. Good afternoon. How can I help you? Dr. Cho and Dr. Park, Jae-hyun said smoothly, showing his ID. We're here to evaluate patient Michael Vincent regarding a potential facility transfer. The receptionist checked her computer, frowned. I don't see that appointment on the schedule. It was arranged directly with Dr. Morrison. Perhaps it wasn't entered into the system yet. Let me call his office. She picked up the phone. Lena's pulse hammered. This was falling apart already. But Jae-hyun's expression remained calm, almost bored. The receptionist spoke briefly, then hung up. Doctor? Morrison's nurse says she doesn't have any record of this appointment either. Are you sure it was for today? Absolutely certain. Perhaps if you could call Dr. Morrison directly? Jae-hyun leaned on the counter slightly. It's rather urgent. The transfer window is quite narrow, and we've driven 3 hours to get here. I understand, but without proper authorization, the lobby doors burst open. Two men in suits entered fast, scanning the room with professional intensity. Lena recognized the look immediately. The same predatory assessment Jae-hyun had when he'd entered the diner. "Excuse me," one of them said to the receptionist. "We're here to see Michael Vincent. Family visit." The receptionist looked flustered. "Mr. Vincent doesn't have any family listed in his file. Distant cousins. We're from out of state." The man's smile didn't reach his eyes. Jae-hyun's hand found the small of Lena's back, pressure just short of painful. A warning. "Well, visiting hours don't start until 2, so if you'd like to wait..." The man pulled out his wallet, extracted 5 crisp $100 bills, and laid them on the counter. "We'd prefer to see him now." The receptionist stared at the money, conflicted. Jae-hyun moved. "Actually," he said, stepping forward with his most charming smile, "since we're all here for Mr. Vincent, perhaps we could coordinate our visits, reduce the disruption to his routine?" The suited man's eyes narrowed. "And you are?" "Dr. Park, consulting psychiatrist. This is my colleague, Dr. Cho. We're evaluating Mr. Vincent for transfer." "Transfer to where?" "I'm afraid patient privacy laws prevent me from discussing details with non-family members." Jae-hyun's smile never wavered. "But since you're family, perhaps you could help clarify some aspects of his medical history." It was a test. Lena saw it, saw the suited man see it. If they really were family, they'd have medical history to share. "If they weren't, we're not close," the man said finally. "Haven't seen Michael in years. Just wanted to check in." "How thoughtful." Jae-hyun turned back to the receptionist. "You know what? We can wait until 2. No need to disrupt protocols. We'll grab lunch and come back during regular hours." He was retreating, giving up. Lena wanted to protest, but the pressure on her back increased slightly. "Trust me." They walked out together, the suited men watching them go. As soon as they were back in the car, Jae-hyun started the engine. "We're burned. They made us." "Who are they?" "Jade Union, probably. Same organization that killed your mother." He pulled out of the parking lot calmly. No rush, nothing suspicious. "They're here for the same reason we are." "So what do we do?" "We come back tonight, through the window." Lena stared at him. "You want to break into a psychiatric facility?" "I want to break into room 412 specifically. Less breaking, more creative entry." He glanced in the rearview mirror. "But we can't do it until we know if those men succeed first." "Succeed at what?" As if in answer, Lena's phone buzzed. She'd bought a burner yesterday at Jae-hyun's insistence. There was only one number programmed into it, his. The message was a video file. She opened it, and her blood turned to ice. The video showed a hospital room, 4th floor, east wing, had to be, and a man sitting in a chair by the window. He was thin, gray-haired, maybe 60. His face? Lena knew that face. Not from memory, but from something deeper. Bone recognition. Genetic echo. Her father. In the video, the 2 suited men from the lobby entered the room. One closed the door. The other approached her father with something in his hand, a syringe. "No," Lena whispered. Her father looked up at them with confusion, said something they couldn't hear. The man with the syringe grabbed his arm. Then her father moved. It was like watching Jae-hyun in the alley, that same sudden explosion of violence. Her father swept the syringe away, drove his elbow into the first man's throat, and had the second man's gun in his hand before either attacker could react. He shot them both. Clean. Professional. The kind of shooting that came from decades of practice. Then he looked directly at the hidden camera and smiled. The video ended. "That was sent to you specifically," Jae-hyun said quietly. "From inside the facility. Your father knew we were coming, knew someone would try to grab him today, and he wanted you to see him handle it." "He's not sick," Lena breathed. "It was all a cover." "Maybe. Or maybe he's sick and dangerous. Either way, we need to get to him before the facility goes on lockdown." Jae-hyun checked his watch. "Security will find those bodies in approximately 12 minutes. We have a window." "To do what?" "To walk through the front door while everyone's distracted by the dead man on the 4th floor." He made a U-turn, heading back toward Clearwater Pines. Sometimes the best infiltration is the one that happens during chaos. They arrived to find emergency vehicles pulling up. Someone had found the bodies faster than expected. The lobby was in controlled panic, staff rushing around, security sealing exits. Jae-hyun parked next to an ambulance and handed Lena a medical bag. Trauma team responding to the emergency call. Stay close, look purposeful, and whatever you do, don't make eye contact with anyone official. They walked straight through the chaos. No one stopped them. Everyone was too focused on securing the fourth floor, on managing the crisis. 2 more people in medical attire were just part of the emergency response. They took the stairs. Elevators would be monitored. 4th floor, East Wing, room 412. The door was open. 2 orderlies were inside, checking on the patient in the chair. Except the chair was empty. Her father was gone. "Sir, we need to secure this room," one of the orderlies said, noticing them. "There's been an incident." "We're aware," Jae-hyun said. "Building security sent us to escort Mr. Vincent to a safe location. Where's he?" "He's not here. We thought he was moved already." Wrong answer. Lena saw Jae-hyun's hand move toward his concealed weapon, but before he could act, a voice came from the bathroom. "You have your mother's eyes." A man stepped out. The same gray-haired man from the video, but now she could see the intelligence in his gaze, sharp and predatory. He looked at her like he was seeing a ghost. "Lena Mikhailovna," he said softly. "My little vault. They told me you were dead." "Dad?" The word came out broken. "Sometimes." His smile was sad. "On good days, yes. On bad days, I don't remember my own name. But today is a very good day." His eyes shifted to Jae-hyun. "And you must be the Korean who's been keeping her alive. Kang Jae-hyun, I presume?" "Mr. Volkov." "Call me Mikhail. Mr. Volkov died the day they carved out my memories." He moved toward Lena, and the orderlies stepped back, sensing something dangerous. "Do you have it? The necklace?" Lena touched her throat automatically. "Good." Mikhail's expression hardened. "Then we need to leave. Now. Because the men I killed weren't Jade Union. They were Antonov Syndicate, which means reinforcements are 6 minutes out, and they won't be as polite as the first team." "How do you know that?" Lena asked. "Because I used to run the Antonov Syndicate before I stole $5 billion from them and disappeared." He grabbed a coat from the closet. "Shall we?" They ran. The facility's fire alarm shrieked to life as they burst through the stairwell door on the ground floor. Mikhail had triggered it somehow. Lena didn't see how, didn't have time to ask, but suddenly the orderly evacuation became pandemonium. Staff herded confused patients toward exits while security tried to maintain order and search for threats simultaneously. Perfect chaos. "This way," Mikhail commanded, moving through the crowd with the confidence of a man who'd escaped far worse places. Jae-hyun stayed close to Lena, one hand on her elbow, guiding her through the press of bodies. They emerged into blinding sunlight just as 3 black SUVs roared into the parking lot, blocking the main exit. Men poured out, and Lena recognized the same cold efficiency she'd seen in the diner assassin. Antonov Syndicate, coming for her father, coming for all of them. "Jin!" Jae-hyun barked into his phone. "North service entrance 30 seconds, and come in hot." Their sedan screamed around the building's corner before the words had finished leaving his mouth. Jin didn't slow down. He aimed straight for the gap between 2 parked ambulances, clipped one hard enough to send its side mirror spinning through the air, and skidded to a stop in front of them. "In!" Mikhail yanked open the back door, shoving Lena inside. Evan was awake now, eyes huge, and he grabbed onto her the moment she landed on the seat. Her father piled in after her while Jae-hyun took the front passenger position with fluid grace. Gunfire erupted before Jin had fully accelerated. The rear window spiderwebbed but didn't shatter. Bulletproof glass, Lena realized. How many people traveled in bulletproof cars? "They're boxing us in!" Jin shouted, wrestling the wheel as 2 SUVs tried to flank them. "I can't." Mikhail leaned out his window with a gun that had materialized from nowhere and fired 3 times with mechanical precision. The lead SUV's front tire exploded, sending it careening into a light post. The second swerved to avoid the wreck, giving Jin just enough space to punch through. "Where did you get that gun?" Lena demanded. Her father settled back into his seat, checking the magazine calmly. "Took it off one of the men I killed. Good weapon. Russian make, recent model. Antonov always did prefer homeland manufacturing. He said it like he was discussing the weather. Lena stared at this stranger wearing her father's face. His eyes, her eyes, apparently, held decades of violence she couldn't begin to comprehend. But when he looked at her, something softened there, something almost human. "You look like her," he said quietly. "Your mother. Same stubborn chin, same way of holding your fear behind your teeth instead of showing it." "I don't remember her." "That was the point." He glanced at Evan, studying the silent boy with interest. "And this one? He's not yours biologically. Different bone structure, different genetic markers in the facial features. But you protect him like he is." "How can you possibly know that from just looking?" "Because I was trained to read people the way scholars read books. It kept me alive for 40 years in a business where most men die before 30. Mikhail smiled, but it was a sad thing. "The boy doesn't speak." "No," Lena confirmed. "Not since I found him. He's seen his family killed." It wasn't a question. "Probably forced to watch. Trauma that deep burrows into the bones, makes a home in the silence." Her father reached out slowly, telegraphing his movements so as not to startle Evan, and gently touched the boy's hand. "But silence can be survived, little one. I know this personally." Evan didn't pull away. He studied Mikhail with those ancient eyes, then did something Lena had never seen him do with anyone else. He nodded. The moment broke when Jin took a corner hard enough to slam them all against the doors. "Still 3 vehicles on us. I need a destination." "Head for the industrial district," Jae-hyun commanded. "Warehouse 7. Time to see if your father's as valuable as advertised, Lena." Mikhail laughed, dark and sharp. "Oh, I'm valuable. Question is whether you can afford the price of that value, Kang Jae-hyun." "We had a deal." "You had a deal with my daughter. I made no such agreement." Mikhail's gun, still held loosely, still ready, pointed at nothing in particular. Yet. "So before we go any further, let's establish terms. What exactly are you offering my little vault in exchange for your continued breathing?" The car went very quiet despite Jin's aggressive driving and the pursuing SUVs. Jae-hyun turned in his seat to face Mikhail directly. Lena watched 2 apex predators size each other up across 3 feet of expensive leather upholstery. $2 billion, Jae-hyun said. 40% of the $5 billion in cryptocurrency, plus new identities for her and the boy, a clean extraction from North America, and a 3-year security detail to ensure no one follows. And what do you get? $2 billion as well, and the satisfaction of having orchestrated the largest criminal wealth redistribution in modern history. Jae-hyun's smile was knife-thin. The remaining $1 billion gets split among key players who help us succeed. Jin gets $50 million. My tech team gets $100 million. Various bribes and operational costs eat another $100 million. The rest goes to ensuring this entire operation doesn't collapse under its own weight. Mikhail considered this. "You've thought it through. I appreciate competence, but you're missing something crucial." "What's that?" "My daughter doesn't need you." The gun was suddenly pointed directly at Jae-hyun's head, unwavering. "She has me now. I know where the second code is, inside my own head, on my good days. And I know where Sarah hid the third piece. We don't require a middleman, Kang Jae-hyun. We can take the full $5 billion and disappear without you." Lena's heart stopped. "Dad, don't—" "Hush, Lena. The adults are negotiating." Mikhail's eyes never left Jae-hyun. "So give me one good reason I shouldn't put a bullet in your brain and solve this whole problem more efficiently." Jae-hyun didn't flinch, didn't even blink. "Because you're having a good day right now, Mikhail. But tomorrow? Next week? You said it yourself, sometimes you don't remember your own name. Your daughter needs someone who can function when you can't. Someone with resources, connections, and the tactical expertise to keep her alive through what comes next. She has those things. She has me. You're a ticking time bomb. Your memories are fragmented. Your personality is unstable. And you just killed 2 men in a facility that will now have your face on every security system in the tri-state area." Jae-hyun leaned forward slightly, into the gun rather than away from it. "You want to protect Lena? Then you need me. Because when you have a bad day and forget who she is, who's going to keep her safe from the dozen organizations that want her dead?" Mikhail's finger tightened on the trigger. Lena couldn't breathe. Then her father laughed and lowered the gun. "Well argued. You have steel nerves, I'll give you that. Most men would have soiled themselves. He tucked the weapon away. Fine. We maintain the existing arrangement, but understand this. The moment you become more liability than asset, I will kill you and everyone you love. Clear? Crystal. Good. Mikhail turned to Lena. Open the necklace. What? Now? We need the first code before we can proceed, and I need to see if you can actually access it, or if this whole enterprise is built on assumptions. He held out his hand. Let me see it. Lena's fingers went to her throat, suddenly protective. She'd worn this necklace for 20 years. It was the only constant in a childhood of chaos, the one thing that was hers and hers alone. Except it wasn't hers. It had never been hers. It was a vault someone else had locked around her neck. She unclasped it with shaking hands and gave it to her father. Mikhail held it up to the light, examining the intricate metalwork. Beautiful craftsmanship. Your mother chose well. Do you see these etchings along the edge? They're not decorative. They're a map. A map to what? To the opening mechanism. He pressed 3 seemingly random points on the locket's surface in quick succession. Nothing happened. He tried again. Different sequence. Still nothing. Jae-hyun watched with clinical interest. If it was that easy, someone would have cracked it years ago. It's not about the sequence, Mikhail muttered, still studying the locket. It's about the user. Sarah would have keyed it to Lena specifically. Biometric lock, probably. Fingerprint or... He stopped. Blood. Excuse me? It needs your blood, Lena. Just a drop. There's a needle mechanism hidden in the clasp. He handed it back to her. Press your thumb to the small indent on the back and push until you feel a prick. This was insane. All of it. But Lena took the necklace back and did as instructed. She found the indent, barely visible, smaller than a pinhead, and pressed. Sharp pain. She hissed, pulling back her thumb. A tiny bead of blood welled up. The locket clicked. The sound was impossibly loud in the car's confined space. Lena watched, transfixed, as the locket's face split along previously invisible seams, opening like a flower to reveal nothing. Just empty space where something should be. No, Mikhail breathed. No, that's not possible. Sarah wouldn't have... Looking for this? A voice crackled through the car's speakers. Jin cursed and swerved, but there was nowhere to go. They'd been herded, Lena realized it now too late, onto a specific stretch of road. Abandoned warehouses on both sides. No turnoffs. A perfect kill box. Ahead, a line of vehicles blocked the street. Behind, the pursuing SUVs closed in. They were trapped. A woman stepped out from the lead vehicle ahead. Even at this distance, Lena could see she was stunning. East Asian features, expensive suit, and the kind of presence that commanded attention without effort. She held up a small object that glinted in the sunlight. A microchip. No bigger than a fingernail. The first code, Jae-hyun said flatly. She has it. Who is she? Lena demanded. Mikhail's face had gone gray. Min Jung, your mother's sister. I have an aunt? Had. Your mother killed her 7 years ago, or so we thought. Mikhail was staring at the woman like she was a ghost made flesh. This is very, very bad. The speakers crackled again. Hello, brother-in-law. Lena, darling niece. I've never met. And Kang Jae-hyun. My, you've certainly moved up in the world since you were running protection rackets in Seoul. Min Jung's voice was honey over glass. I propose a trade. You all step out of the vehicle, hands visible, and I'll consider letting you live long enough to hear my offer. And if we refuse, Jae-hyun called back, then I kill the boy first so he doesn't have to watch what I do to the rest of you. Lena's arms tightened around Evan instinctively. The boy had gone very still, understanding on some primal level that they were in mortal danger. She's bluffing, Jin said, but he didn't sound convinced. She needs Lena alive. She needs the necklace, Mikhail corrected. Lena is just the delivery mechanism. Min Jung would absolutely kill a child to make a point. She's done it before. Jae-hyun was calculating odds. Lena could see it in his eyes. Running scenarios, weighing probabilities. Finally, he reached a conclusion she could read in the set of his shoulders. They had no good options. We go out, he decided, but we go out smart. Mikhail, you're the immediate threat they'll focus on. Use that. Jin, stay in the car with Evan, Engine running. At the first sign of gunfire, you floor it. Don't look back. Sir? That's an order. Jae-hyun looked at Lena. Stay behind me. Don't speak unless spoken to directly. And whatever happens, don't give her the satisfaction of seeing you afraid. Easier said than done when Lena's entire body was shaking, but she nodded. They emerged into the afternoon heat. Lena counted at least 20 armed men surrounding them, maybe more. Professional shooters, positioned with clear lines of fire. This wasn't a negotiation. It was an execution waiting to happen. Minjung approached with the casual confidence of someone who knew she held all the cards. Up close, Lena could see the family resemblance. The same bone structure as the mother she couldn't remember, but harder, colder. Lena, Minjung said warmly, like they were meeting for lunch. You have your mother's eyes. She would be so proud to see what you've become. A waitress, I hear? How delightfully ordinary. Don't react, don't give her anything. You have something of mine, Lena managed, proud that her voice only shook a little. This? Minjung held up the microchip. Oh, darling, this was never yours. Sarah stole it from me 7 years ago, right before I killed her. Took me this long to find where she'd hidden it. Did you know she sewed it into her own chest cavity? I had to cut her open to retrieve it. Mikhail moved, or started to, but Jae-hyun's hand shot out to stop him. Don't. That's what she wants. Smart man. Minjung's smile widened. Yes, I want Mikhail to attack me, because then my people kill him, and I lose one complication. But I'm a reasonable woman. I'll make you all a better offer than whatever Kang promised you. I doubt that, Jae-hyun said. $1 billion, cash, untraceable, delivered anywhere in the world you choose. She gestured to Lena. All you have to do is tell me where Mikhail hid the second code, help me retrieve it, and walk away. You never have to be part of this world again. Lena's mouth went dry. $1 billion. She could take Evan and disappear. Live like royalty for the rest of their lives. Never work another shift, never go hungry, never be afraid. She's lying, Mikhail said quietly. The moment you tell her what she wants to know, you die. Minjung doesn't leave witnesses, especially not witnesses who could potentially access $5 billion if they change their minds later. You always were paranoid, Mikhail. It's why you've survived so long. Minjung's expression hardened. But let's be honest about our positions. I have the first code. I have 20 guns pointed at you. And I have time. You have nothing but desperation and a daughter who doesn't even remember being your daughter. She was right. They had nothing. Except Lena's mind raced. Her father had opened the locket with a specific sequence. 3 points pressed in succession. But he'd tried multiple combinations before getting frustrated and switching to the blood method. What if the blood wasn't the only lock? What if it was one lock of several? She still had the necklace clutched in her hand. While Minjung focused on Mikhail, Lena slowly, carefully, felt along the locket's edge. Those etchings her father had mentioned, mapped to the opening mechanism. Each tiny marking was slightly raised, deliberate. Her fingers found a pattern. 3 small bumps arranged in a triangle. She pressed them simultaneously. The locket vibrated. A hidden compartment she hadn't seen before popped open on the interior. Inside, so small she almost missed it, was a second microchip. Minjung had 1 code, but there were 2. Her mother had split the first piece into redundant backups, hidden them in different parts of the same locket. You want to know where the second code is? Lena said loudly, interrupting Minjung's monologue. My father hid it in his head, locked behind the memory wipe. And the only way to access it is through a specific trigger phrase that only he knows on his good days. Mikhail's eyes widened fractionally. He understood. She was buying time, building a bluff. Minjung studied her with new interest. And what might that phrase be? I don't know. He won't tell me. Says if I knew, someone could torture it out of me. Lena forced herself to meet her aunt's gaze. But he'll tell you, for the right price. Lena, Jae-hyun started. Shut up, she snapped, shocking herself with her own vehemence. I'm done being a pawn, done watching other people control my life. You want to negotiate? Fine. But we do it on equal terms. Minjung laughed, delighted. Oh, you do have Sarah's fire. I'd almost forgotten. Very well, niece. What's your offer? You give me that microchip. I keep the one I have. My father provides his code piece. We split the 5 billion 3 ways. You get your share immediately and walk away. We get ours and do the same. No one else dies today. Bold, stupid, but bold. Minjung tapped the microchip against her lips, considering. And what stops me from just torturing the information out of all of you? The fact that my father's mind is fragmented. Torture could trigger a bad day, and then the code is lost forever. You need his cooperation. Lena was making this up as she went, but it felt right. And you need me to access the third code wherever my mother hid it. Kill us, and you're stuck with 1/3 of the puzzle. Silence. 20 guns. 30 seconds. An eternity compressed into frozen time. Then Minjung smiled. 3-way split. 2 billion each, rounded down. I want my share within 72 hours, or I come for all of you with everything I have. Agreed, Lena said before anyone could stop her. Then we have a deal. Minjung tossed the microchip. Lena caught it on instinct, clutching both pieces now, 2 parts of the first code, in her hands. They were backing toward the car when it all went wrong. One of Minjung's men, young, nervous, with a twitchy trigger finger, saw Mikhail's hand move toward his pocket, probably reaching for nothing, maybe reaching for a weapon. The young man didn't wait to find out. He fired. The shot went wide, but it didn't matter. Everyone reacted. 20 guns came up. Jae-hyun shoved Lena down as bullets started flying. She hit the pavement hard, scraping her palms bloody, and heard Evan scream, the first sound she'd ever heard him make, a high keen of pure terror. "Get to the car!" Mikhail roared, returning fire with the stolen gun. Bodies dropped. Blood sprayed. The world became noise and violence and the smell of gunpowder. Lena crawled toward the sedan, every instinct screaming at her to run. But Evan was in there. Evan needed her. Strong hands grabbed her shoulders, hauling her up. Jae-hyun, blood streaming from a cut on his forehead, half carried her the last 10 feet. They tumbled into the back seat as Jin gunned the engine. "Dad!" Lena screamed, seeing Mikhail still standing in the middle of the firefight, taking down Minjung's soldiers with ruthless efficiency. He looked at her through the rear window, smiled, and then deliberately stepped between them and the pursuing gunfire, providing cover as Jin accelerated. "No, go back! We have to He's buying us time," Jae-hyun said, holding her down as bullets punched through the trunk. "Don't waste it." The last thing Lena saw before they rounded a corner was her father dropping to one knee, still firing, surrounded by enemies. Then he was gone. The drive back to the warehouse was a blur of tears and rage, and Evans continued screaming. The boy wouldn't stop, couldn't stop, 20 years of trauma finally breaking through the dam of his silence. Lena held him and wept with him, mourning a father she'd barely known, mourning the mother she couldn't remember, mourning every shred of normalcy that had been stripped away. "He's alive," Jae-hyun said as Jin navigated through back streets. "Mikhail's too valuable for Minjung to kill outright. She'll capture him, interrogate him about the second code. And then kill him," Lena finished bitterly. "Probably. So we just left him to die. We left him to do what he chose to do, save you." Jae-hyun's hand found hers, squeezed once. "Don't dishonor that choice by falling apart. You have both microchips now. We're closer than anyone else to completing this. We find the third code, access the money, and use it as leverage to get your father back." Lena wanted to believe him, wanted to believe there was a path forward that didn't end in more death. But she'd seen the look in Mikhail's eyes when he'd stepped into that gunfire. That was a man saying goodbye. Warehouse 7 looked exactly like it had when they'd left. Cold, fortified, hostile. But now it felt different. Now it felt like a prison. They were escorted to a different room this time, larger, with multiple computer stations and a conference table, clearly a planning space. 4 people waited there, 3 men and a woman Lena didn't recognize. "Technical team," Jae-hyun explained. "Best in the business. They'll help us decode the microchips and locate the third piece." The woman, who introduced herself as Dr. Park, no relation to the psychiatrist from yesterday, apparently everyone in Jae-hyun's organization was named Park, took the 2 chips with reverent care. "These are encrypted, military-grade custom algorithm, could take days to crack." "We don't have days," Lena said. We have 72 hours before my aunt comes hunting. Your aunt who's probably torturing your father right now, one of the men added helpfully. Jae-hyun shot him a look that could have melted steel. Not helpful, Marcus. Just being realistic, boss. Dr. Park ignored them, already plugging the chips into a specialized reader. Code scrolled across multiple screens. I'll need time. Maybe 24 hours. The encryption is... Wait. Everyone leaned in. There's a message embedded in the first chip. Low-level steganography, hidden in the file structure itself. Her fingers flew over the keyboard. It's an audio file. Playing now. The speakers crackled. Then a woman's voice filled the room, speaking with an accent Lena recognized immediately. It was her own accent, the one she heard in recordings of herself, the genetic echo of vocal cords and bone structure. Her mother. Lena, if you're hearing this, I'm dead. I'm sorry, sweetheart. Sorry for the life we gave you. Sorry for the memories we took. Sorry for making you a target. But most of all, I'm sorry I won't be there to see the woman you've become. Lena's throat closed. Evan had finally quieted, exhausted from screaming. He sat beside her, holding her hand like it was the only solid thing in a spinning world. The recording continued. The 3 codes must be combined in a specific sequence. First code, the chips in your necklace. You have them now. Second code, hidden in your father's mind, locked behind a trigger phrase. The phrase is the name of the street where we first met. He'll remember on his good days. Third code, I buried it with something precious. Something you'll understand when the time comes. Look for the red door in the city where I died. Behind it, you'll find what you need to end this. Static. Then, I love you, Lena. I always have. And I'm sorry. The recording ended. Silence in the war room. The city where she died, Dr. Park said quietly. Prague. That's where Min Jung killed her. Jae-hyun was already on his phone pulling up maps. Red door in Prague. That narrows it down to about 10,000 possibilities. The message said something precious, Lena interjected. Something I'll understand. What did my mother value? Your father, Jae-hyun said immediately, and you. But I was already hidden, protected. Lena's mind raced. What else? What would she consider precious enough to bury with the final code? Evan tugged at her sleeve. When she looked down, he had drawn something on the notepad someone had given him. A crude picture of a flower. Red petals. Green stem. A rose? Lena guessed. The boy shook his head, frustrated. He drew more carefully this time, adding details. Not a rose, a lily, with 7 petals arranged in a specific pattern. 7. The red lily, Dr. Park breathed. It's a cemetery in Prague, famous burial ground for artists and musicians. If Sarah wanted to hide something precious, she'd hide it with someone precious. Jae-hyun pulled up images of the cemetery on the main screen, hundreds of graves, thousands of red lilies planted throughout. We need to know who she buried there. Lena looked at Evan, who was still staring at his drawing. How did a 6-year-old boy know about a specific cemetery in Prague? Unless... Evan, she said gently. Have you been there? To the Red Lily Cemetery? The boy hesitated, then nodded. Did you see someone bury something there? Another nod. Can you show me where? Evan picked up his pencil and started drawing again. Not flowers this time. A map. Crude but clear. A path through the cemetery. Landmarks indicated with careful precision. He drew for 5 minutes straight, never hesitating, like he was copying something from memory. When he finished, he'd created a detailed route to a specific grave in a cemetery hundreds of miles away. How? Lena started. Photographic memory, Dr. Park said, studying the drawing with professional interest. Some traumatized children develop it as a coping mechanism. They can recall specific events with perfect clarity even if they can't verbalize them. He witnessed something in Prague, Jae-hyun concluded, something involving your mother and the third code. That's why he was found in Chicago covered in blood. Someone killed his family to get to him, to what he knew. Lena pulled Evan close, understanding now why he'd never spoken. He'd seen her mother die, seen his own family murdered, been hunted across an ocean for the secret locked in his photographic memory, and she'd been the one to find him, purely by chance. Or Not chance, she realized aloud. My mother arranged for Evan to find me. She knew if anything happened to her, this boy would remember where she hid the third code. She pointed him toward Chicago, toward the diner, toward me. Your mother was nothing if not thorough, Jae-hyun agreed. So now we know where the third code is. Prague, Red Lily Cemetery, specific grave that Evan can identify. And we know Min-jung has my father, who holds the second code. Which means we need to move on two fronts simultaneously. Jae-hyun pulled up a logistics screen. Team 1 goes to Prague, retrieves the third code. Team 2 rescues my father, Lena finished. Rescues or recovers his code through other means, Jae-hyun corrected carefully. Lena, you need to prepare yourself for the possibility that Mikhail is already dead. He's not. She said it with a certainty she couldn't explain. I'd know. I'd feel it. Genetic intuition isn't real. Neither is a waitress suddenly running from the Russian mob, but here we are. Lena stood, surprised by the steadiness in her legs. I'm going after my father. You go to Prague. Absolutely not. You're the most valuable piece on the board. You stay here where it's safe. Safe? Lena laughed, sharp and brittle. There is no safe. Min-jung knows where we are. She probably has people watching this warehouse right now. Staying here just makes me a sitting target. Then we move you to a secondary location? No. The word came out harder than she'd intended. I'm done being moved around like furniture. My father saved my life today. I'm returning the favor. Jae-hyun studied her, and she saw the moment he recalculated. Saw him recognize that she'd changed, somewhere in the chaos between the diner and now. She wasn't the scared waitress anymore. She was becoming something else, something dangerous. Fine, he said finally, but you go with a full security team. Jin, Marcus, and 6 others. And you wear a tracking device at all times, so I know where you are. Deal. I'll take Dr. Park and 3 specialists to Prague. We retrieve the third code, you get the second from your father, and we meet back here in 48 hours to combine all 3 pieces. He pulled up a map showing 2 separate flight paths. Min-jung will be watching the airports. We'll need to use private channels. The next 6 hours were a whirlwind of planning, false documents, weapons checks, encrypted communication devices. Lena learned more about tactical operations than she'd ever wanted to know. They were scheduled to leave at midnight, separate vehicles, separate routes, separate destinations. Lena was checking her go-bag for the 3rd time when Evan appeared in the doorway. He'd showered, changed into clean clothes that someone had found for him, and he was holding something out to her, his notepad, with a new drawing. This one showed a woman who looked like Lena, standing over a man on the ground. In the woman's hand, a gun. Around the man, bodies. I'm not a killer, Lena said softly. Evan shook his head. Not a correction. A prediction. He flipped the page. Another drawing. The same woman, but different now. Standing taller. Surrounded by men in suits who were bowing to her, and behind her, a throne made of money and guns and broken crowns. You think I'm going to become like them? Lena asked. Like Min-jung, like my father? The boy considered, then drew one more thing. A heart, right in the center of the woman's chest, still beating. Still there despite everything. I can be powerful and still be good? Evan nodded. How do you know? The boy pointed at her, then at himself. At the months she'd spent protecting him, feeding him, choosing to see him as a person rather than a burden. She'd had nothing, and she'd still shared what little she had. That was the difference, he was saying. That was what would keep her from becoming a monster. Lena hoped he was right. Midnight came with rain, as if Chicago couldn't help but provide dramatic atmosphere. Lena stood in the warehouse loading bay, watching her team assemble. Jin was there, stoic as ever, Marcus and 6 others whose names she'd already forgotten. All armed, all professional, all here to protect her while she did something probably suicidal. Jae-hyun appeared from the shadows. Last chance to change your mind. Stay here. Let the professionals handle it. The professionals haven't done a great job of keeping anyone alive so far, Lena pointed out. Fair. He handed her something, a small pistol, matte black, surprisingly light. 9mm, 15-round magazine. Safety here. Point and shoot. Try not to kill yourself with it. Lena took the weapon, feeling its weight. She'd never held a gun before 3 days ago. Now she was being armed like it was normal. Nothing was normal. Normal had died in that diner.
Hyun, she said as he turned to leave. Thank you. For everything. For saving me, protecting Evan, giving me a chance when you could have just taken the necklace and run. I'm not altruistic, Lena. I'm practical. You're worth more alive. Still, thank you. He paused, something conflicted crossing his face. Don't die. It would be inconvenient. Then he was gone, heading for his own vehicle, his own mission. Lena climbed into the SUV with Jin and her security team. Evan was staying behind with Dr. Park's people, safer that way, and he'd already given them everything they needed with his drawings. The boy had hugged her before she left. Still hadn't spoken, but the hug said enough. Come back. Don't leave me like everyone else has. Lena intended to keep that promise. Where to? Jin asked, starting the engine. Good question. Where would Minjung take Mikhail? Somewhere secure. Somewhere she could work on him without interruption. Somewhere. Lena's phone buzzed. Unknown number. She answered warily. Hello? Hello, niece. Minjung's voice, cheerful as ever. Enjoying your evening? What do you want? To save you some trouble. I know you're planning to rescue your father. Very noble, very stupid. So let me make you an offer. I'm listening. Come to the Apex Tower, downtown, penthouse level. Come alone, or I start removing pieces of Mikhail and mailing them to you. You have 2 hours. The line went dead. Jin was already turning around. It's a trap. Obviously. We're not going. Obviously we are. Lena checked the gun's safety, confirming it was engaged. But not alone, and not unprepared. She called Hae Hyun. He answered on the first ring, despite being somewhere over the Atlantic by now. Change of plans, Lena said, and told him everything. When she finished, there was a long pause. Then, you understand she's going to try to kill you the moment you walk through that door. Yes. And you're going anyway. Yes. Another pause. There's a weapons cache in that building. 40th floor, maintenance closet 3. The access code is 7742. Jin knows how to use what's in there. How do you have a weapons cache in a random building? It's not random. I own 40% of Apex Tower through a subsidiary. Seemed like a good investment. His voice turned serious. Lena, don't trust anything Minjung says. She killed her own sister. Family means nothing to her. Noted. And Lena? If you get the second code from your father, if you make it out alive, I need you to hold both pieces until I return with the third. Don't combine them without me. The moment all 3 codes are united, you become the single biggest target on the planet. I understand. Good luck. He hung up. Lena looked at Jin. Apex Tower. And we're going to need bigger guns. The Apex Tower pierced the Chicago skyline like a blade of black glass and steel, 70 stories of corporate power and luxury condominiums. At this hour, 1:47 in the morning, the building should have been nearly empty. Security guards on rotation, maybe a few bankers pulling all-nighters, nothing more. Instead, as Jin pulled their SUV into the underground parking garage, Lena counted at least a dozen vehicles that screamed professional security. Black sedans with reinforced frames, a van with communications equipment visible through tinted windows, men in suits standing at strategic positions, watching their approach with the dead-eyed focus of career killers. They're not even pretending this isn't a trap, Marcus muttered from the back seat, hand already on his weapon. Why would they? Lena unbuckled her seatbelt, checking the small pistol Jae-hyun had given her one more time. The weight of it in her waistband felt wrong, foreign. But then again, everything about the last 72 hours felt wrong. Minjung thinks she's won. She has my father, she has superior numbers, and she knows I'll walk into hell itself to get him back. She's not wrong about that last part, Jin observed, parking in a spot that gave them clear sightlines to 3 exits. Always thinking tactically, always planning the escape route. But we're not letting you go up there alone. I have to. She said, come alone, or she starts removing pieces of your father. Jin turned to face her fully, his usually stoic expression showing something that might have been concern.
She's going to do that anyway, Lena, whether you comply or not. People like Min Jung don't make deals. They make examples. Lena knew he was right, had known it the moment Min Jung's voice had slithered through her phone speaker. But what choice did she have? Mikhail had sacrificed himself so she could escape. Left him to die would be, "Not die," she said aloud, needing to hear it. "He's not dead. She needs him alive to get the second code." "For now," Marcus agreed. "But the moment she extracts what she needs, or the moment she realizes he's more valuable as leverage than as a prisoner, that calculation changes." They approached the building's service entrance. The 40th floor weapons cache meant going through areas the public never saw. Jin entered the access code on a nondescript door, and it clicked open to reveal a freight elevator that smelled like machine oil and old concrete. The ride-up was silent, except for the groaning of cables. Lena watched the floor numbers tick by, each one bringing her closer to a confrontation she wasn't trained for, wasn't ready for, couldn't possibly survive without help. But she was going anyway. The 40th floor was maintenance and mechanical, massive HVAC units, electrical systems, the building's beating heart hidden behind the glamorous facade. Jin navigated through the industrial maze like he'd memorized the blueprints, which he probably had. The man prepared for everything. Maintenance Closet 3 looked exactly like a maintenance closet should. Mops, cleaning supplies, a shelf of industrial chemicals. Nothing suspicious. Jin moved a bottle of floor cleaner aside, revealing a hidden keypad. 7742. The back wall of the closet slid open with a pneumatic hiss. Inside was enough firepower to stage a small coup. "Your boss doesn't do anything halfway, does he?" Lena breathed, staring at racks of weapons organized with military precision. Rifles, submachine guns, boxes of ammunition, body armor, even what looked like flashbang grenades. "Mr. Kang believes in preparation." Jin was already selecting weapons with practiced efficiency, passing an automatic rifle to Marcus. And in having contingencies for the contingencies. They armed and armored themselves quickly. Lena refused the body armor. Too bulky, would make her slower, but accepted a better handgun than the one Jae Hyun had given her. A Glock 19, Jin called it. Standard issue for half the law enforcement in America. Point and shoot, same principle, but with better stopping power. She hoped she wouldn't have to find out exactly what that meant. "The plan," Jin said, checking his weapon one final time, "is that you go up to the penthouse like she demanded, but we'll be 2 floors below in the stairwell. The moment shooting starts, and it will start, Lena, make no mistake about that, we come up fast and hard. Our job is to extract you and your father and get out before Min Jung's reinforcements lock down the building. And if my father is already dead, then we extract you and we run." Jin's expression softened slightly. "I'm sorry, but that's the reality of the situation we're in." Lena nodded. She understood. Hated it, but understood. They took the service stairs up to the 68th floor, 2 below the penthouse, and Jin's team spread out into tactical positions. Marcus handed Lena a small earpiece. "Open channel," he explained. "We'll hear everything that happens up there. If you need help, just say the word red, and we're coming." "Red, got it." Lena fitted the device into her ear, wincing at the tight fit. "What if I can't talk?" "Then start shooting, and we'll hear that too." Comforting. The elevator to the penthouse required a special key card. Lena didn't have one, but apparently Min Jung had arranged for it because the elevator doors opened the moment she approached. Another sign of just how much control her aunt had over this situation. The ride-up seemed to take forever and no time at all. Lena watched her reflection in the polished steel doors, pale, scared, trying desperately to look braver than she felt. The gun at her hip felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. The doors opened onto a scene from an architectural magazine. The penthouse was all floor-to-ceiling windows and modern furniture, the kind of place that cost more per month than Lena used to make in a year. Chicago spread out below like a circuit board, lights glittering in the darkness. And in the center of the room, tied to a chair, was her father. Mikhail looked worse than when she'd seen him last. One eye was swollen shut, blood crusted on his temple, shirt torn and stained. But he was alive. And when he saw her, something fierce and protective flared in his good eye. "Lena, run," he croaked. "It's a—" Min Jung stepped out from behind a support column, immaculate as ever despite the late hour. She had a gun in one hand,
casual as carrying a purse. A trap, yes, we've established that, but she came anyway because she has her mother's idiotic sense of nobility. 4 more men emerged from various positions around the penthouse, all armed, all positioned to cut off any escape route. Lena raised her hands slowly, showing she wasn't reaching for her weapon. You said 2 hours. I'm here in under 1. Let him go. Why would I do that when I have both of you exactly where I want you? Minjung circled Mikhail like a shark, gun trailing along his shoulder. Do you know how long I've waited for this? 7 years. 7 years since your mother put a bullet in my chest and left me for dead in a Prague alley. 7 years planning, building my resources, waiting for the moment all 3 of you would be vulnerable. You said she killed you, Lena said, trying to keep Minjung talking. The longer they talked, the more time Jin had to get into position. In your story back at the roadblock. I lied. Family trait, apparently. Minjung pressed the gun against Mikhail's temple. He didn't flinch. Your mother shot me. I shot her. We both died, technically. She just stayed dead longer. But the beauty of having access to cutting-edge medical technology and unlimited funds is that death becomes more of a suggestion than an absolute. Lena's mind raced. The microchip you showed us, the first code, you never had it, did you? That was a fake. Very good. See, Mikhail, your daughter inherited your intelligence along with your mother's stubbornness. Minjung smiled. I needed to see if you actually had the real codes. Needed to confirm the necklace worked as advertised. And you did exactly what I hoped. Opened it right there in front of me. Now I know the mechanism. Know what I'm looking for. But you don't have it. I do. Lena touched her pocket where the 2 microchips rested. Which means you still need me. Need is such a strong word. I'd prefer, would like to avoid the hassle of torturing the location out of you. But I'm flexible. Minjung's expression hardened. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to give me those chips. Your father is going to tell me the trigger phrase that unlocks the second code from his fragmented mind. And then you're both going to tell me where Sarah hid the 3rd piece. And if we refuse? Then I start with his fingers, then his toes. Then I move on to more creative anatomical options until one of you breaks. She said it like discussing dinner plans. I've done this before, Lena, many, many times. Everyone breaks eventually. It's just a question of how much of them is left when they do. Mikhail spoke, his voice rough but steady. The street, where you and Sarah first met. I remember now. It's coming back. Don't tell her anything, Lena snapped. She'll torture you to get it. Better she gets it from me. Mikhail met Minjung's eyes. But I want something first. Proof that you'll let Lena walk out of here alive. Minjung laughed. You're not exactly in a position to negotiate, brother-in-law. Neither are you. Kill us both and you've got nothing. The 3rd code could be anywhere in Prague. Thousands of possible locations. You could search for years and never find it. His smile was bloody but triumphant. But let Lena go, and I'll give you everything. The trigger phrase. The location where Sarah hid the final piece. All of it. Lena's heart hammered. What was he doing? Dad, no. Hush, little vault. The adults are making deals. Mikhail's good eye fixed on her, and she saw something there. A message. A plan. Minjung, do we have an accord? Lena's freedom for total cooperation? Minjung considered, tapping the gun against her thigh. You're a manipulative bastard. I can see why Sarah fell for you. Is that a yes? It's a maybe. First, a show of good faith. Tell me the trigger phrase. Let Lena leave the building first. Not a chance. She could call in reinforcements. She came alone, as you demanded. And you have this entire building locked down. What's she going to do, fight her way through 20 of your men? Mikhail leaned forward despite the restraints. Let her walk to the elevator. The moment those doors close, I'll tell you everything. It was a terrible plan. Obvious in its desperation. Minjung would never agree to... Fine, Minjung said, but she leaves her weapons. And if I even suspect she's trying something clever, I put a bullet in your brain before she reaches the ground floor. Lena's hand moved to her gun, but Mikhail's voice stopped her. Do it, Lena. Give her the weapons. Their eyes met. He was trying to tell her something with just that look. Trust me. I have a plan. Get ready to move. Lena placed her Glock on the nearest table.
Then the backup piece Jin had insisted she carry. Then the knife she'd forgotten was strapped to her ankle.
The microchips, too, Minjung demanded. Those weren't part of the deal. They are now. Lena hesitated. Those chips were the only leverage she had. Without them, she was worthless. Expendable. Give her the fakes, Mikhail said quietly. Lena blinked. Fakes? Then she understood. The microchips in her pocket. She had two. The ones from the necklace. But Mikhail had taken the necklace earlier, examined it, pressed various hidden mechanisms. Had he found something else? Created duplicates somehow? She pulled out the chips, made a show of reluctance, and placed them next to the guns. Minjung collected them with a satisfied smile. See? Cooperation is so much more pleasant than screaming. Now, Lena, the elevator is right there. Walk slowly, no sudden movements, and remember, your father's life depends on your compliance. Lena walked. Each step felt like a mile. She could feel the guns trained on her back, Minjung's men ready to fire at the first sign of trouble. The earpiece in her ear was silent. Jin and his team were listening, waiting for the signal. She reached the elevator, pressed the button. The doors slid open with a quiet chime that sounded impossibly loud in the tense silence. "Before you go," Minjung called out. "A parting gift from your father, something to remember him by after I kill him." Lena spun, heart in her throat. "You said I lied." Family trait, remember? Minjung raised her gun, aiming at Mikhail's head. "Any last words, brother-in-law?" Mikhail smiled. "Just one. Red." Everything happened at once. The window behind Mikhail exploded inward in a shower of glass. Jin came through on a repelling line, firing before his boots hit the ground. Marcus and 3 others came through the stairwell door, weapons blazing. And Mikhail, somehow, impossibly, broke free from his restraints and dove for cover, revealing that the ropes binding him had been cut nearly through. He'd been waiting for this moment. Lena hit the floor as bullets filled the air. One of Minjung's men went down immediately, then another. Jin was a machine, every shot precisely placed, no wasted motion. The penthouse turned into a war zone. "Red!" Lena screamed into the earpiece, though they clearly already knew. "Red, red, red!" She scrambled toward where her guns lay on the table, but Minjung got there first. Her aunt moved with inhuman speed, scooping up the Glock and firing in one smooth motion. The shot went wide. Jin had forced her to dive for cover, but it was close enough that Lena felt the bullet's passage through the air near her head. "You think you're clever?" Minjung snarled, firing twice more. "You think your little rescue team changes anything?" Mikhail had retrieved a weapon from one of the dead guards. He and Jin were systematically eliminating Minjung's men with brutal efficiency, decades of training evident in every movement. But there were still too many. Reinforcements were already pouring from the stairwell, fresh shooters replacing the fallen. Lena grabbed a fallen guard's pistol, checked it was loaded with shaking hands, and fired at Minjung's position. The shot went high. She had no idea how to actually aim this thing, but it made her aunt duck, buying precious seconds. "Lena, elevator!" Jin roared, laying down covering fire. "Now!" She ran, slid into the elevator, slammed her hand on the button. The doors started to close. Minjung appeared in the gap, gun raised. "You don't get to walk away from this!" Lena raised her own weapon, surprised by how steady her hands had become. "Watch me." She fired. The shot caught Minjung in the shoulder, spinning her back. Not a kill shot. Lena didn't have the skill for that, but enough to make her aunt scream in rage and pain. The elevator doors sealed shut, cutting off the sight of Minjung's furious face. Lena sagged against the wall, adrenaline making her shake so hard she could barely stand. The elevator was descending, floor numbers ticking down. 69, 68, 67. Her earpiece crackled. Jin's voice, tense but controlled. "Lena, status?" "In the elevator. I'm okay. Minjung is hit but alive." "What about my father?" "We have him. Multiple hostiles down, but more coming. We're taking the stairs. We'll meet you at the parking garage. 3 minutes." "Roger that." She'd learned the term from watching too many action movies during slow nights at the diner. Never thought she'd use it in real life. The elevator seemed to be moving slower now. 42nd floor. 41st. 40th. It stopped. Lena's blood turned to ice. Someone had overridden the elevator, trapped her between floors like a rat in a cage. The emergency panel crackled to life. "Clever girl," Minjung's voice, distorted by pain and fury. "Did you really think I wouldn't have backup plans? I own this building too, you know. Or rather, I own the people who own it. Let me go. In a minute. First, I'm going to flood that elevator with gas. Nothing lethal. I still need you alive to access those codes. But you'll sleep for a very long time. And when you wake up, you'll wish I'd killed you." Lena looked up. Standard elevator ceiling panel. She'd seen enough movies to know what to do, even if she'd never actually done it. She climbed onto the railing, pushed up the panel, and hauled herself into the shaft above. The darkness was absolute. The smell of machine grease and old metal filled her nose. Somewhere below, she could hear gas hissing into the elevator compartment. Minjung wasn't bluffing. Lena's hands found the maintenance ladder built into the shaft wall. She climbed, not knowing where she was going, just knowing she had to go up, away from the gas, toward somewhere, anywhere else. Her earpiece crackled again. "Lena, you stopped transmitting. What's happening?" "Elevator shaft," she panted, pulling herself up another rung. "Minjung trapped me, flooding it with gas." How far up can you climb?" "I don't know. It's dark. I can't see anything." 40th floor should be right above you. There's an emergency release on the shaft door. I'll talk you through it." Lena climbed faster, muscles burning. She'd never been particularly athletic, waitressing built endurance but not upper body strength, and every pull upward felt like lifting her own weight in concrete. Her hand touched metal. A ledge. The 40th floor landing. "I'm here," she gasped. "What's the release?" "Left side of the door, about waist height. Should be a metal lever." Lena's fingers scrabbled along the door's edge, searching, found it. She pulled with all her strength. Nothing. "It's stuck. Kick it." Sometimes they rust. She braced herself against the ladder and kicked the lever. Once, twice. On the third try, something gave. The door slid open a few inches, and blessed light flooded in. Lena squeezed through the gap, tumbling onto the 40th floor's concrete floor. Her shoulders were screaming, her hands bleeding from gripping the rough ladder, but she was out. The maintenance level looked different now. Emergency lights were flashing. An alarm was sounding somewhere. Minjung had clearly activated some kind of lockdown protocol. "Jin, I'm on 40. Where are you?" "Ground floor, parking garage. We have your father, but building security is locking everything down. We're going to have to fight our way to the vehicle." "I'll meet you there." "Negative. Too many hostiles between you and us. Find another way out. North side of the building, there's a loading dock. We'll circle around and pick you up there in 4 minutes. 4 minutes. An eternity when people were actively trying to kill you. Lena ran. The 40th floor was a maze of corridors and machinery rooms. She took turns at random, just trying to put distance between herself and anyone pursuing her. Behind her, she could hear shouting. Footsteps. They'd figured out where she'd gone. She burst through a door and found herself in a server room, racks and racks of computer equipment, the digital brain of the building's operations. And sitting at a terminal, fingers flying across a keyboard, was someone she didn't expect. Dr. Park. The woman from Jae-hyun's technical team. The one who was supposed to be in Prague. "Lena?" Dr. Park looked up, startled. "What are you doing here?" "What are you doing here? You're supposed to be—" "Flight got delayed. Mechanical issues. We're leaving in 3 hours." She returned her attention to the screen. Jae-hyun called, said you might need technical support. "I'm in the building's security system now. I can see Minjung's forces. Route you around them." "Can you unlock the doors to the north loading dock?" "Already done. But you've got a problem. 6 guards between you and that exit, and they're not moving. They know where you're headed." Lena checked her stolen pistol. 5 rounds left, against 6 trained shooters. "What about another exit?" "All sealed except the front entrance, and that's where Minjung is setting up. She's wounded but mobile, and she's very, very angry." Dr. Park pulled up another screen. "Wait, the parking garage. Jin and his team just took out the guards there. If you can get to the service elevator on the west side of this floor, it goes straight down to P3. They can meet you there." "Show me the route." Dr. Park pulled up a building schematic, highlighted a path. "Fastest way is through the mechanical room, then left at the junction, straight to the elevator.
You'll have maybe a 2-minute window before Min Jung's people realize where you're going. What about you? I'll be fine. I'm just a hacker in a server room. They're looking for you. Dr. Park's smile was tight. Go. I'll keep you updated through the earpiece. Lena went. The mechanical room was a nightmare of pipes and generators, heat and noise. She navigated through it as quickly as she could, following the mental map Dr. Park had shown her. Left at the junction. Straight ahead. She could hear pursuit behind her now, closer than before. The elevator was just ahead. 20 feet, 15. A man stepped out from behind a support column, gun raised. Stop right there. Lena didn't stop. Didn't think. Just raised her pistol and fired. The shot went wide. She still couldn't aim worth a damn, but it made the man duck. She fired again. The fourth shot hit him somewhere that made him drop, and then she was past him, slamming her hand on the elevator call button. The doors opened immediately. Someone had already sent it to this floor, Dr. Park, probably, working her technical magic. Lena dove inside as more guards appeared. Bullets sparked off of the elevator frame. She hit the button for P3, and the doors began to close with agonizing slowness. A hand thrust through the gap, then an arm, then Min Jung's face, twisted with rage and pain, blood soaking her shoulder. You shot me, her aunt hissed. My own niece. Sarah would be so disappointed. My mother tried to kill you, Lena shot back. Seems like family tradition. Min Jung's gun came up. Lena was faster. She grabbed her aunt's arm, twisting it, and the shot went into the elevator ceiling instead of her face. They struggled, both fighting for control of the weapon. Min Jung was stronger, better trained, but she was also wounded and bleeding. The elevator doors kept trying to close, bumping against Min Jung's body and reopening. An automated voice kept repeating, "Please clear the doorway. Please clear the doorway." Lena drove her knee into Min Jung's wounded shoulder. Her aunt screamed, grip loosening, and Lena ripped the gun away. She pointed it at Min Jung's face. For a long moment, they stared at each other. Aunt and niece. Two branches of the same poisoned family tree. Do it, Min Jung wheezed. Pull the trigger. Become what you were born to be. Lena's finger tightened on the trigger. Then she lowered the gun and kicked Min Jung out of the elevator instead. Her aunt sprawled on the concrete floor, stunned. Lena hit the button again, and this time the doors closed fully. Why? Min Jung's voice came through the earpiece. She must have been broadcasting on an open channel. You had the shot. Why didn't you take it? Because I'm not you, Lena said simply. And I'm not going to become you. The elevator descended into darkness, carrying her away from her aunt's laughter. P3 was chaos when the doors opened. Jin and his team had secured a perimeter, but she could see bodies on the ground, the cost of getting her father out. Mikhail was in the SUV's back seat, holding a blood-soaked cloth to his ribs. When he saw Lena, relief flooded his battered face. You made it. We made it, she corrected, climbing in beside him. Jin, drive. Now. They peeled out of the parking garage with the screech of tires and the smell of burning rubber. Behind them, more of Min Jung's forces were mobilizing, but they'd lost the element of surprise. Jean drove like he was auditioning for a stunt team, taking corners at speeds that defied physics. Where to? He asked, blowing through a red light. Anywhere but here, Mikhail groaned, and preferably somewhere with medical supplies. I think they broke a rib. Probably several, Jin agreed. Marcus, call ahead to Warehouse 7. Tell them to have the medical team ready. Lena was checking her father for injuries, cataloging the damage. Broken ribs, definitely. Possible concussion. Cuts and bruises everywhere, but alive. Against all odds, alive. The microchips I gave Min Jung, she said. You said they were fakes. How did you manage that? Mikhail's smile was pained but genuine. I didn't. Those were the real ones. What? But you said... I lied. Needed you to give them to her convincingly. If she thought they were fakes, she'd never let you walk out. He pulled something from his pocket. 2 more microchips, identical to the ones she'd surrendered. These are the real codes. The ones you gave her were blank duplicates I swapped out when I examined the necklace earlier. Your mother always packed redundancies, multiple chips, multiple hiding spots, all in the same locket. Lena stared at the chips in his palm. So we still have the first code. We have 2/3 of what we need. The first code here, the second code in my head, which I can access now, by the way. Min Jung's interrogation actually helped shake some memories loose.
His expression darkened. And the third code is wherever Sarah hid it in Prague. We know where that is. Evan drew us a map. The boy remembers? Of course he does. Sarah always was brilliant at contingency planning. Mikhail leaned his head back against the seat, exhausted.
So we just need to survive long enough to get to Prague, dig up the third code, combine all three pieces, and access 5 billion in cryptocurrency before every criminal organization in the world descends on us like locusts. Simple.
You forgot the part where Min Jung is now extremely motivated to kill us all, Lena added. That too. They drove in silence for a while, the city lights blurring past the windows. Lena's hands were still shaking from the adrenaline crash, her clothes soaked with sweat and fear and the copper smell of other people's blood. She'd shot someone tonight. Maybe killed them. She didn't know, hadn't stayed to check. The girl who'd served coffee at Rosie's diner felt like a different person. Someone she'd been a lifetime ago instead of just days.
Lena, her father said quietly, you did well tonight. Better than well. You survived something most trained operatives wouldn't have. I got lucky. Luck is just preparation meeting opportunity. You prepared by listening, by learning, by staying calm when any sane person would have panicked. His hand found hers, squeezed gently. Your mother would have been proud. Would she? I mean, really? If she could see what I've become? You've become a survivor. That's all she ever wanted for you.
Mikhail's eyes were heavy, pain and exhaustion dragging him toward unconsciousness. Get the money, little vault. Use it to build a life she'd have wanted you to have, and try not to kill too many people along the way. His eyes closed. For a terrifying moment, Lena thought he'd died, but his chest still rose and fell, breath steady, if shallow. Jin met her eyes in the rear-view mirror. He'll be okay. Tough old bastard. Takes more than a beating to kill someone like Mikhail Volkov. How do you know? Because I've seen him survive worse. Years ago, when Mr. Kang first made contact with the Volkov organization. Jin took a corner smoothly, heading toward the industrial district. Your father was legendary in certain circles, the man who stole from everyone and disappeared without a trace. People have been looking for him for years. And now everyone knows he's alive. Yes, which means the timeline just accelerated considerably. Jin's expression was grim. We need to get to Prague, get that third code, and complete this operation before the entire criminal underworld realizes what's happening. I give us maybe 48 hours before things spiral completely out of control. Lena's phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. She opened it warily. The message was a photo. Dr. Park, still at her terminal in the Apex Tower server room. But now there was a gun to her head, and Min Jung stood behind her, wounded but upright, her smile visible even in the grainy image. The text below read, You have 24 hours to deliver all 3 codes to me, or your helpful hacker friend learns what it feels like to drown in her own server coolant. The exchange location will be sent at noon tomorrow. Come alone. Come prepared to surrender everything, or watch everyone you've ever cared about die screaming. Your choice, niece. Choose wisely. Lena showed the message to Jin. His jaw tightened. Dr. Park knew the risks. She volunteered for this operation. That doesn't make it okay to let her die. I'm not saying it does. I'm saying we need to be realistic about what we can and can't do. He pulled into Warehouse 7's loading bay, where armed guards immediately surrounded the vehicle. Mr. Kang needs to know about this immediately. This is above my pay grade. They carried Mikhail inside, where the medical team was already waiting. Lena watched them work on her father with professional efficiency, cleaning wounds, setting broken bones, administering pain medication through an IV line. She stepped outside to make the call. Jae-hyun answered on the first ring. Tell me you're alive. Barely. We got my father out, but Min-jung has Dr. Park. She's demanding we hand over all 3 codes in 24 hours, or she kills her. Silence on the other end. Then, Dr. Park is a good person, one of the best I've ever worked with, but she's also a professional who knew the risks. So we just abandon her? I'm saying we don't negotiate with terrorists, Lena. The moment we start trading codes for hostages, Min-jung owns us. She'll keep taking people until we have nothing left to bargain with. So what do we do? We stick to the plan. I'm in Prague now. My team is at the Red Lily Cemetery. Using Evan's map, we should have the third code within the next 6 hours. Once I have it, I fly back to Chicago. We combine all three pieces, and we access the funds before Min Jung can stop us. And Dr. Park? I'll send a secondary team to extract her, but the priority is completing the operation. Do you understand? Lena wanted to argue, wanted to say that Dr. Park's life was worth more than money, even $5 billion. But she was starting to understand how this world worked. Everything was transactional. Everyone was expendable, even her, especially her. I understand, she said quietly. Good. Get some rest. You're going to need it for what comes next. He hung up. Lena stood in the warehouse loading bay, listening to the rain start up again. Chicago's constant companion, washing the blood from the streets, cleaning the evidence of violence like it had never happened. She thought about the girl she'd been just days ago. Broke. Exhausted. Invisible. That girl would have run. Would have taken Evan and disappeared into the night. Consequences be damned. But that girl was gone now, burned away in the fires of the last 72 hours. In her place was someone harder, someone who'd looked down the barrel of a gun and fired back. Someone who'd traded lives like poker chips and learned to sleep despite the screaming. Someone becoming exactly what her parents had been. Lena touched the microchips in her pocket. The first code. 1/3 of $5 billion. 1/3 of freedom. Or 1/3 of damnation. She wasn't sure there was a difference anymore. The makeshift hospital room smelled like antiseptic and blood. Lena sat beside her father's bed, watching the steady rise and fall of his chest, the IV drip-feeding painkillers into his system. The medical team had done what they could, cleaned the wounds, wrapped the ribs, stitched the deeper cuts. But Mikhail would be recovering for weeks, maybe months. They didn't have weeks. You should sleep, Jin said from the doorway. He'd been standing guard for the past 3 hours, weapon ready, eyes constantly scanning for threats that might never come. Or might come any second. I can't, Lena admitted. Every time I close my eyes, I see that elevator, Min Jung's face, the moment I almost pulled the trigger. But you didn't. Maybe I should have. She studied her hands. They were steady now. The shaking finally stopped. When had that happened? When had she become the kind of person who could contemplate murder without her hands trembling? It would have solved a lot of problems. It would have created more. Jin moved into the room, taking the chair across from her. Killing changes you, especially the first time. Even when it's necessary, even when they deserve it, something inside you shifts. You don't get to go back to who you were before. Have you killed people? Many. He said it without pride or shame, just stating a fact. Some deserved it. Some were just in the wrong place. All of them haunt me in small ways. But I'm still here, still functioning, because I never killed anyone who wasn't trying to kill me first. That line, that's the one you don't cross if you want to keep your soul intact. Lena thought about the guard she'd shot in the mechanical room. She still didn't know if he'd survived. Part of her didn't want to know. Her phone buzzed again. Another message from Min Jung. This one was a video. Lena's thumb hovered over the play button. Every instinct told her not to watch, that whatever was on that video would be designed to hurt her, to manipulate her into making a mistake. She pressed play anyway. Dr. Park appeared on screen tied to a chair in what looked like a basement. Her face was bruised, one eye swollen shut, but she was conscious, alert. And when she spoke, her voice was steady. Lena, if you're watching this, don't negotiate. Don't trade the codes for me. Jaehyun is right. The operation is more important than one person. She paused, wincing as someone off camera did something that made her gasp in pain. Min Jung wants you to feel responsible for what happens to me. Don't give her that power. Finish what your mother started. Access those funds. And then burn this whole rotten system to the ground. The video cut to Min Jung, who was lounging in an expensive chair, wounded shoulder bandaged, but clearly not impeding her much. Inspiring words, but let's see how inspired she feels after I start removing fingers. You have 23 hours now, niece. The clock is ticking. The screen went black. Jin had watched over her shoulder. Dr. Park is right. We can't let this derail the operation. I know, Lena said. But knowing and accepting were two different countries separated by an ocean of guilt.
Mikhail stirred, eyes opening slowly. For a moment, they were clouded with confusion. One of his bad days starting, perhaps. Then clarity returned, sharp and focused. How long was I out? 3 hours, Lena told him. How do you feel? Like I was beaten by professionals. Which I was. He tried to sit up, gasped, and settled for propping himself on his elbows.
Minjung send another message? Lena showed him the video, watched his expression harden with each passing second. She's escalating, he observed. Trying to force your hand before Jaehyun can retrieve the third code. It means she's worried. Good. Good? Dr. Park is being tortured, and there's nothing we can do about it right now. Mikhail's tone was harsh but not unkind. I know that's difficult to accept, but this is how wars are fought, Lena. You make the moves you can make, and you mourn the casualties later. Otherwise you lose, and then everyone dies. This isn't a war. It's money. It's just money. Money is always war in different clothing. Her father gestured for water, and she helped him drink. $5 billion represents power. The power to topple governments, to buy armies, to reshape the criminal landscape of an entire continent. Every organization that wants those funds isn't just fighting for wealth. They're fighting for dominance, for survival. And they'll kill anyone who stands in their way. Jin's phone buzzed. He checked it, face going carefully neutral. Mr. Kang's team found the grave. They're excavating now. Lena's heart jumped. They have the third code? Not yet, but soon. Jin showed them the message. A photo of the Red Lily Cemetery, fog rolling through the headstones, a fresh excavation site marked with Evan's precise directions. He estimates 2 hours until extraction, then a 7-hour flight back to Chicago. We could have all 3 pieces by tomorrow morning. Which is still within Min Jung's deadline, Mikhail noted. Barely. We'd need to move fast, combine the codes, access the accounts, transfer the funds before she can interfere. And then what? Lena asked. We have the money. Min Jung is still out there, still angry, still dangerous. Having $5 billion doesn't make us bulletproof. No, but it makes us negotiable. Her father's smile was predatory despite his battered condition. With that kind of leverage, we can buy peace, pay off the major players, redistribute enough wealth to make killing us more expensive than tolerating us. It won't be perfect, but it'll give us breathing room. And Dr. Park? We send a team to extract her the moment we have the funds secured. Use part of the money to hire the best mercenaries in the business. Min Jung won't be expecting a full-scale assault. She'll be too focused on us. Mikhail met Lena's eyes. I know it feels wrong to prioritize money over a life, but if we lose the codes trying to save one person, we lose everything, including any chance of saving Dr. Park. It was logical, strategic, absolutely correct. It still felt like betrayal. A commotion from the hallway interrupted them. Raised voices, sounds of a struggle. Jin was on his feet instantly, weapon drawn, positioning himself between the door and Lena. The door burst open. Evan stumbled in, breathing hard, eyes wild with panic. Behind him, one of the guards looked apologetic. Sorry, sir, the kid just bolted. Ran past 3 checkpoints before we caught up. It's fine, Jin waved him off. Leave us. Evan ran straight to Lena, grabbing her hands with desperate intensity. He was trying to tell her something, communicate in the only way he could, through gesture and expression and the fierce intelligence burning in his eyes. Evan, slow down. What's wrong? The boy pulled her toward the door, tugging insistently. He wants you to follow him, Mikhail observed. Something he needs to show you. Lena let Evan lead her through the warehouse's corridors, Jin trailing behind with his weapon ready. The boy moved with purpose, navigating the maze of rooms like he'd memorized the layout. He probably had that photographic memory again. They ended up in the room where Evan had been staying. He went immediately to his backpack, the same battered thing he'd had when Lena found him, and pulled out a small object wrapped in cloth. When he unwrapped it, Lena's breath caught. It was a locket, nearly identical to the one she'd worn but smaller, more delicate. And when Evan opened it with practiced ease, he knew the mechanism, had opened it before. There was a photo inside, a woman and a small boy. The woman was unmistakably Sarah Chen, Lena's mother, and the boy was Evan.
He's not just some random orphan you found, Jin said quietly. He's family. Lena stared at the photo, mind racing. Her mother with Evan, who would have been maybe 4 years old in the picture, which meant Sarah had another child, Mikhail said from the doorway. He'd followed despite his injuries, leaning heavily against the frame. She never told me, never told anyone, but it makes sense now. She'd have wanted insurance, a backup plan if something happened to her primary asset, to you. Are you saying Evan is my brother? Lena's voice came out strangled. Half-brother, probably. Different fathers. Sarah was nothing if not strategic in her relationships. Mikhail studied this boy with new interest. The real question is what else he knows. What else Sarah taught him before she died. Evan was already pulling out more items from his backpack. Papers covered in drawings, not childish scribbles, but precise technical diagrams. Maps, schematics, and strings of numbers written in careful block letters. Are those... Lena started. Codes, Jin confirmed, examining the papers. Bank accounts, access sequences, backup protocols. This kid is carrying $500 million in cryptocurrency access just in these papers alone. Evan handed Lena one more item. A USB drive, smaller than her thumb, attached to a chain like a necklace. Your mother's contingency plan, Mikhail breathed. If anything happened to the primary codes, Evan had the backups. She split her legacy between 2 children, ensuring at least one would survive to access it. Lena knelt to Evan's eye level. How long have you been carrying this? The boy held up his fingers. 7. 7 months, the same amount of time he'd been with her. You found me on purpose, she realized. You weren't just some random kid in an alley. You were looking for me. Evan nodded. And the men who were killed around you when I found you? The blood that wasn't yours? The boy's expression went distant, traumatized. But he pointed to one of his drawings. A warehouse, men with guns, a woman who looked like Sarah fighting desperately to protect a small child. And then the woman falling, bleeding, dying. The child running, men chasing, and then the child turning the hunters into the hunted using weapons and knowledge no 6-year-old should possess. He killed them, Jin said, reading the story in the pictures. 3 grown men. He was 4 years old and he killed them to survive. Sarah trained him, Mikhail added. Taught him to fight, to hide, to survive at any cost. Just like she tried to do with Lena, but Evan was young enough that the training took deeper root. Lena pulled her brother, into a fierce hug. He'd been alone for so long, carrying impossible knowledge, hunted by people who'd kill a child without hesitation. And he'd found his way to her across an ocean and through a city of 8 million people. You're safe now, she whispered. I promise. Whatever happens, you're safe. It was a promise she had no right to make, but she made it anyway. Her phone rang. Jae-hyun's number. We have it, he said without preamble. The 3rd code. Sarah buried it in a waterproof case with her mother's body. Took us 3 hours to excavate without destroying it, but we have it. And it's intact? Perfectly preserved. She really thought of everything. There was respect in his voice, grudging admiration for a dead woman's thoroughness. I'm boarding a flight now, 7 hours to Chicago, then we combine all 3 pieces and access the funds. There's a complication, Lena told him. Evan, the boy I've been protecting, he's Sarah's son, my half-brother. And he's been carrying backup codes this entire time. Silence. Then, how much? Jin estimates $500 million in cryptocurrency accounts. More silence. Lena could practically hear Jae-hyun recalculating, adjusting his plans to account for this new information. Good, he finally said. That gives us additional leverage. If Min-jung or anyone else tries to interfere with the main extraction, we have a backup fund to work with. Your mother really was a genius at contingency planning. Jae-hyun, what's the plan for Dr. Park? I'm sending a team, best people I have. They'll hit Min-jung's location at the same time we're combining the codes. Split her attention, force her to choose between stopping us and holding on to her hostage. And if she chooses wrong, if she kills Dr. Park rather than let her go, then we mourn her and move forward, because that's what she'd want. His voice softened slightly. I know you care, Lena. I know you want to save everyone. But sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone is to make sure their sacrifice matters. Finish this. Make Dr. Park's courage count for something. He hung up before she could argue. The next 6 hours passed in a blur of preparation. Jin coordinated with Jae-hyun's team, plotting attack vectors and extraction routes. Mikhail, despite his injuries, worked with Evan to decode the backup accounts, creating a complete picture of Sarah's hidden empire. And Lena learned how to be a different person. Jin taught her to shoot properly. Not just point and squeeze, but stance and breathing and sight alignment. They used the warehouse's makeshift range, and by the 100th round, she was actually hitting what she aimed at. "You're a natural," Jin observed, which felt like the worst compliment she'd ever received. Marcus showed her how to clear rooms, how to move tactically, how to think 3 steps ahead of an enemy. All skills she'd never wanted, never asked for, but now needed desperately. And Mikhail, when he had the strength, told her stories about her mother, about Sarah Chen, who'd been brilliant and ruthless and fiercely protective of the few people she'd loved. "She would have liked you," he said during one of his more lucid moments. "The person you're becoming. Strong, strategic, but still holding on to compassion like a weapon instead of a weakness." "Is that what I'm doing?" Lena asked. "Or am I just fooling myself while I turn into exactly what she was?" "There's a difference between becoming powerful and becoming monstrous." "Your mother understood that. She did terrible things, yes. Stole from monsters, killed when necessary, built an empire on blood and secrets. But she never hurt innocents, never targeted children, never betrayed the people she'd promised to protect." His hand found hers. "That's the line, Lena. That's what keeps you human. Hold on to it, even when everything else is burning." Dawn came with news from Jae-hyun. He'd landed, was en route to the warehouse, ETA 30 minutes, and Min-jung had sent her final message. "Noon, Apex Tower. Bring all 3 codes or I start cutting pieces off your hacker friend. This is your last chance, niece. Choose wisely." It was 7:43 in the morning. They had 4 hours and 17 minutes. "We're not going," Jin said firmly. "It's an obvious trap." "Of course it's a trap," Lena agreed. "But we're not abandoning Dr. Park. The extraction team will handle it. The extraction team is 3 men against Min-jung's entire organization. They'll need a distraction." She looked at her father, who was nodding slowly despite the pain it caused. "So we give her one. I go to the Apex Tower. I make Min-jung think I'm considering her offer, and while she's focused on me, your team hits her from behind." "Wait, you'll be walking into a kill box," Marcus objected. "The moment you're inside, she'll seal the exits and gun you down." "Not if I'm worth more alive than dead. Not if I convince her I'm ready to deal." Mikhail's smile was proud and sad at once. "You sound like your mother when you talk like that. All cold calculation hiding fierce determination." "Is that a compliment?" "It's an observation and a warning. Sarah's greatest strength was also her greatest weakness. She could plan for every contingency except the human element, except love and loyalty, and the irrational things people do for each other." He gestured to his broken body. "Case in point." Jae-hyun arrived 17 minutes early, which seemed appropriate for a man who treated punctuality like a combat advantage. He swept into the warehouse's war room carrying a briefcase handcuffed to his wrist, looking like he'd just stepped out of a board meeting rather than off a transcontinental flight. "The 3rd code," he announced, unlocking the case. Inside, nestled in foam padding, was another microchip. "Took 3 specialists to extract it without damage, but it's clean, ready for integration." He looked at Lena, really looked at her for the first time since he'd left. Something shifted in his expression. "You're different. I've had an educational few hours." "I can see that." He set the briefcase on the table. "Jin tells me you want to walk into Min-jung's trap as a distraction while we extract Dr. Park." "Yes. It's a terrible plan. It's the only plan that gives Dr. Park a chance. She knew the risks when she signed on. We all did." "I don't care." Lena stood, meeting his eyes. "I'm going. You can support me or get out of my way, but I'm going." Jae-hyun studied her for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, he smiled. Sarah would have been proud, terrified, but proud. Everyone keeps saying that. Because it's true. Your mother spent your entire childhood trying to protect you from becoming what she was, gave you false memories, a false identity, a false life, all to keep you innocent, and now here you are walking straight into the fire anyway. He opened the briefcase fully, revealing not just the microchip but a complete mobile computing setup. Fine. We do it your way, but we do it smart. He pulled up a holographic display showing the apex tower in 3 dimensions, marking Min Jung's known positions and probable defensive arrangements. She'll expect you to come alone. So we send you alone, but wired for sound and video, with a full tactical team in position to extract you the moment things go wrong. Not if, Lena. When. Understood. The extraction team hitting her rear position will coordinate their breach for noon exactly, the moment of the proposed exchange. That gives you a 15-minute window to keep Min Jung talking, keep her distracted, while my people get Dr. Park out. And the codes? Jae-hyun pulled out the 3 microchips, laying them on the table like playing cards. We combine them here, now, before you leave. Access the accounts, transfer the funds to secure locations, and then we have the leverage we need to negotiate from a position of strength. Mikhail wheezed out a laugh. You want to rob the bank before the hostage exchange. Bold. Practical. The codes are only valuable as long as they're inaccessible. Once we have the money, we can afford to buy our way out of anything Min Jung throws at us. He was right. It was ruthlessly logical, and it meant that even if Lena died at the Apex Tower, the mission would be complete. She tried not to think about how easily everyone was planning for her potential death. The decryption took an hour. Dr. Park's replacement, a nervous young man named Chen, worked with shaking hands to combine the 3 codes into a single access key. Lena watched the process on multiple screens, seeing billions of dollars appear like magic from the digital ether. Accounts in the Cayman Islands, Hong Kong, Switzerland. Cryptocurrency wallets scattered across a dozen blockchains. Her mother had been nothing if not thorough in hiding her theft. Total accessible funds, Chen announced, voice cracking slightly. 4.7 billion in cryptocurrency. Another 300 million in traditional currencies across various accounts. Plus physical assets we haven't cataloged yet. Property, art, gold reserves. Your mother was sitting on what amounts to a small nation's GDP. And now it's ours, Jae-hyun said. Begin transfers. Route everything through the cleaning protocols we established. I want these funds untraceable within the hour. Keyboards clattered, numbers shifted across screens. Lena watched her share grow from nothing to 700 million to 1.2 billion to transfer complete, Chen said. All funds secured in the designated accounts. Cooling period initiated. In 6 hours, the money will be completely untraceable. Jae-hyun nodded, satisfied. And if anyone tries to reverse the transfers? We've burned the bridges behind us. The original accounts are now empty shells protected by quantum encryption. Even if someone had the original codes, they couldn't access what's no longer there. Good. Jae-hyun turned to Lena. You're now worth approximately $2 billion. Congratulations. How does it feel? Lena thought about Mrs. Chen, her elderly neighbor, dead in an apartment fire, about the guards she'd shot, about Dr. Park, tied to a chair somewhere, waiting for rescue or death, about her mother, bleeding out in a Prague alley 7 years ago. It feels like blood money, she said quietly. All money is blood money if you trace it back far enough. The question is what you do with it. If I survive the next 4 hours? When you survive, he corrected, because you're going in there with every advantage I can give you. They spent the next 90 minutes turning Lena into a walking surveillance platform. Cameras in her jacket buttons. Microphones woven into her clothing. A tracker injected under her skin that would transmit her location even if Min Jung stripped her of everything else. And a weapon. Not a gun. Too obvious. But a small blade disguised as a pen, sharp enough to kill if she knew where to strike. Jin showed her the 3 vital points. Throat, inner thigh, underarm. Places where a small blade could do catastrophic damage if you were fast and desperate enough. I don't want to kill her, Lena said. Want doesn't matter. Survival does. If it comes down to you or Min Jung, you choose you. Understand? Lena nodded, though the weight of the blade felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. 11:15. 45 minutes until the exchange. Mikhail insisted on standing to say goodbye, though it clearly cost him. He pulled Lena into the careful embrace, mindful of his broken ribs. Come back, he said simply. I just found you. I'd like to keep you around. I'll do my best. Your best has been pretty spectacular so far. Don't stop now. Evan gave her his own goodbye, a drawing showing her standing tall over defeated enemies, triumphant and whole. A child's wish for his sister's safety, rendered in careful pencil strokes. And Jae-hyun walked her to the vehicle, his expression unreadable.
"Why are you doing this?" Lena asked as Jin started the engine. "The honest reason, not the money, not the strategy. Why did you help me?" He was quiet for a long moment. "Because 7 years ago, your mother saved my life. I was nobody, just another enforcer working for people who'd kill me the moment I stopped being useful. And Sarah Chen saw something in me worth saving. Gave me resources, connections, a chance to build something better." He looked away. "I couldn't save her."
"But I can save her daughter. That's worth more than money." Before Lena could respond, he stepped back and Jin pulled away. The drive to the Apex Tower felt both endless and far too short. Lena watched the city pass by, wondering if this was the last time she'd see it. Chicago had never been kind to her, but it was home, the only one she'd ever known. Jin pulled up to the front entrance exactly at noon. Perfect timing. "Comms check," he said. Lena tapped her collar twice. "Reading you." "Good. Remember, keep her talking. The extraction team is moving in from the parking garage level. They need 15 minutes. 15 minutes. I can do that. And Lena? If you get a shot at Min-jung, take it. Don't hesitate like you did in the elevator." "I'll try." She stepped out of the vehicle and into the lion's den. The lobby was empty except for Min-jung, who stood by the elevator in a fresh suit, her wounded shoulder barely showing any impairment. She smiled as Lena approached. "Right on time. I do appreciate punctuality in my victims." Her eyes scanned Lena, clearly looking for weapons, wires, anything suspicious. "You came alone as instructed. How refreshingly obedient." "I came to make a deal." "Is that so? And what deal would that be?" "You let Dr. Park go. I give you my share of the funds, $2 billion, transferred to accounts of your choosing." Min-jung's smile widened. "You already accessed the codes. Clever and foolish." "What makes you think I won't just kill you both and take everything?" "Because you can't access what you don't have the keys to. The funds are locked behind security protocols only I can authorize. Kill me and you get nothing." It was a bluff. The transfers were complete, the funds already secured. But Min-jung didn't know that. "Interesting proposition. Come upstairs. Let's discuss terms." The elevator ride to the penthouse was silent. Lena counted seconds, tracking the extraction team's progress in her mind. They'd be in position by now, moving through the garage levels, getting closer. The penthouse was different than when she'd last seen it. The broken windows had been boarded up, the blood cleaned away. And tied to the same chair where Mikhail had been, Dr. Park sat with her head down, breathing, but clearly injured. "Dr. Park," Lena called out, Can you hear me?" The woman's head lifted slowly. Both eyes were blackened now, blood crusted on her lips. But when she saw Lena, she tried to smile. "I told you not to come," she whispered. "I'm bad at following instructions." "Family trait," Min-jung observed, positioning herself where she could cover both women with her gun. "Now then, niece, show me the transfer authorizations. Prove you can actually deliver what you're offering." Lena pulled out her phone, the one Jae-hyun had given her, preloaded with fake authorization screens that would look real enough for a few minutes. She showed Min-jung the first screen. $2 billion, but you have to release Dr. Park first. "I don't have to do anything. I'm the one with the gun. And I'm the one with the access codes. You shoot me, my finger slips off this screen and the authorizations lock for 72 hours. You'd have to wait 3 days to try again. And by then, Jae-hyun will have moved the money somewhere you'll never find it." Another bluff. But Min-jung hesitated, calculating odds. 14 minutes. The extraction team would be breaching in 60 seconds. "Fine," Min-jung decided. "But you make the transfer first, then I release the doctor." That wasn't the deal. New deal. Take it or watch her die. Lena's finger hovered over the screen. Every second she stalled was another second for the extraction team, but push too hard and Min-jung would see through the deception. 45 seconds. "Okay," Lena said, "but I need your account information. Where do you want the funds sent?" Min-jung rattled off a series of numbers and codes. Lena entered them slowly, buying time, asking for confirmation on each digit. 30 seconds. Transfer initiating, Lena lied, watching a fake progress bar crawl across her screen. This will take about 2 minutes. 20 seconds. Minjung's phone rang. She answered it, listened, and her expression transformed from confident to furious in an instant. You bitch! This was all a distraction. 15 seconds. The penthouse's rear windows exploded inward. Flashbangs detonated, filling the space with light and noise. Minjung fired blindly, but Jin's extraction team was already inside, moving with practiced precision. Lena dove for Dr. Park, cutting her restraints with the penknife. The older woman could barely stand, so Lena half-carried her toward the stairs while gunfire thundered around them. Minjung was shouting orders, trying to rally her forces, but the extraction team had caught her completely off guard. They'd expected resistance from below, not an assault from above. Go! One of the team members shouted, laying down covering fire. We'll hold them here! Lena and Dr. Park stumbled into the stairwell. Behind them, the sounds of battle continued. Shots, screams, the crash of furniture being used as cover. They made it down 3 floors before Minjung appeared at the landing above, blood streaming from a gash on her forehead, fury incarnate. You think you've won? She screamed. You think stealing money changes anything? I will hunt you to the ends of the earth. I will kill everyone you've ever cared about. I will make you watch while I... The shot came from below. Jae-hyun, emerging from a lower landing with his own weapon raised. The bullet caught Minjung in the chest, center mass, perfect placement. She looked down at the wound, surprised. Then up at Jae-hyun, then at Lena. Just like your mother, she wheezed. Always, one step ahead. She fell backward, tumbling down the stairs, body going limp before she hit the bottom. Lena stood frozen, unable to process what had just happened. Is she... Dr. Park started. Jae-hyun checked for a pulse, efficient and clinical. She's dead. Let's move before her reinforcements arrive. They made it to the parking garage where Jin was waiting with the vehicle. The extraction team, -1, Lena noticed with a pang, piled in behind them. As they pulled away from the apex tower for the second time in 12 hours, Lena looked back at the building. Somewhere up there, her aunt was dead. Killed by the same man who'd saved Lena's life multiple times. Are you okay? Jae-hyun asked quietly. I don't know, Lena admitted. She was family. Terrible, murderous family, but still. She would have killed you without hesitation. Remember that. I know. It still feels wrong. That's what keeps you human. He handed her his phone, showing a news alert. It's starting. The headline read, Massive cryptocurrency heist. Billions disappear from criminal accounts worldwide. Below it, stories were flooding in from across the globe. The Antonov Syndicate claiming theft. The Jade Union reporting missing funds. Cartels and triads and mafias all discovering simultaneously that their hidden fortunes had vanished. And none of them knew where the money had gone. We did it, Dr. Park said weakly from the back seat. We actually did it. We're not done yet, Jae-hyun cautioned. The hard part comes now, staying alive long enough to enjoy the money. But as they drove through Chicago's streets toward a future that was terrifying and uncertain and entirely their own, Lena felt something she hadn't felt in days. Hope. Hope lasted exactly 4 hours. They'd made it back to Warehouse 7, gotten Dr. Park into medical care, and were beginning to believe they might actually survive this. Then Jae-hyun's phone started ringing, and didn't stop. The first call was from the Antonov Syndicate, then the Santiago Cartel, then the Jade Union, then organizations Lena had never heard of, each one angrier than the last. Word had spread faster than wildfire. Someone had stolen from everyone, and the prime suspects were the only people who'd known about all the accounts simultaneously. Sarah Chen's daughter, Mikhail Volkov, and the Korean who'd somehow orchestrated the entire operation. How long until they find us? Lena asked, watching Jae-hyun field the 7th call in 10 minutes. They already know where we are, he said grimly. Question is how long until they mobilize enough forces to hit us. I'd estimate 6 hours, maybe less. This warehouse can't hold against a full-scale assault from multiple organizations. No, it can't. Jae-hyun pulled up tactical displays showing approaching threats from 3 directions. Which is why we're not staying to defend it. We're leaving, all of us, tonight.
Mikhail, propped up in a wheelchair because walking was still agony, wheeled himself into the war room. Leaving to go where? Every airport in North America will be watched. Every border. Every port. They'll have our faces flagged in every database that matters. Then we don't use conventional exits. Jae-hyun pulled up a new map. This one showing a route that made Lena's stomach drop. We go out the way your wife used to smuggle high-value assets. The Underground Railroad. That network was compromised 7 years ago. By Min Jung, yes. Who's conveniently dead now, along with most of the people who knew about the compromise. Jae-hyun's smile was sharp. I've spent the last 6 months rebuilding those routes specifically for this contingency, because I knew that when we accessed those funds, we'd need to disappear completely. Lena studied the route. Chicago to Milwaukee via secured transport. Milwaukee to a private airfield where a plane with no flight plan would take them to Mexico. Mexico to a yacht that would sail them to a private island Jae-hyun owned through so many shell corporations that tracking the ownership would take years. You've been planning this the whole time, she realized. Before you even found me, you knew it would come to this. I planned for every contingency. It's why I'm still alive. He looked at each of them in turn. This is the only way. We disappear together or we die separately. Your choice. Dr. Park, bandaged and barely conscious, raised a shaky hand. I vote disappear. Dying sounds terrible. Despite everything, Lena laughed. It came out slightly hysterical, but it was genuine. They had 2 hours to pack their lives into vehicles and vanish. Lena spent 30 minutes of that with Evan, making sure he understood what was happening. The boy had been through so much, survived so much, and now she was asking him to run again. But when she explained, he simply nodded and started packing his few possessions with the same methodical efficiency he brought to everything, as if he'd always known this moment would come. You're not scared? Lena asked. Evan considered, then shook his head. He pointed at her, then at himself, then made a gesture that encompassed everyone in the warehouse. Family. Together. Safe. Yeah, Lena agreed softly. Together. Mikhail had his own preparations to make. He'd arranged for trusted associates to handle his legitimate business interests, create cover stories for his disappearance, tie up the loose ends of a life he'd never be returning to. Any regrets? Lena asked, helping him pack documents into a secure case. Thousands. But not about this. He gestured around the warehouse at the organized chaos of their evacuation. I've spent 7 years in that facility, half mad and completely useless. At least now I get to spend my remaining years somewhere warm with family I actually remember. You think the memory problems will get worse? Probably. The damage from the memory wipe compounds over time, but I'll have good days too, and on those good days I'll teach you everything Sarah never got to. How to think like she did, plan like she did, survive like she did. I'm not sure I want to be that ruthless. You won't have a choice, little vault, not anymore. The moment you accessed those funds, you became one of the most dangerous people alive. Not because you're violent, but because you're unpredictable. The old powers don't know what you'll do with that money, and that terrifies them. His smile was proud. Good. Let them be afraid. Fear is how you buy breathing room. Jin was loading weapons into the vehicles when Lena found him. Enough firepower to fight a small war, organized with his usual precision. Think we'll need all that? She asked. Hope not. Plan for yes, He didn't look up from his work. Mr. Kang wants you in the lead vehicle with him. Mikhail and Evan in the second vehicle with me. Dr. Park in the third with Marcus and the medical team. We move in convoy, stay tight, and if anyone tries to stop us, we punch through without slowing down. You make it sound simple. Simple and easy are different things. This will be simple. It won't be easy. He finally looked at her. You've done well, Lena. Better than anyone expected. Your mother would be proud. Everyone keeps saying that. Did you know her, my mother? Once. Briefly. She hired me for a job in Hong Kong 7 years ago. Extraction operation. High risk, low survival probability. She paid triple the going rate and promised that if I succeeded, she'd set me up with someone who could change my life. He smiled slightly. That someone was Mr. Kang. So yes, I knew her, and yes, she'd be proud of what you've become. The convoy departed at midnight, 3 black SUVs rolling out of Warehouse 7's garage and into Chicago's rain-soaked streets.
Lena sat in the passenger seat of the lead vehicle, watching the city pass by one final time. Every street held memories now, some good, most terrible, all part of the journey that had transformed her from invisible waitress to something else entirely. "Penny for your thoughts," Jae-hyun said, navigating through side streets with practiced ease. "Just thinking about the diner, about Rosie's, about the life I had a week ago." "Do you miss it?" "Parts of it. The simplicity. Knowing what each day would bring, being nobody important." She touched the window, watching her reflection ghost across the glass. "But I was also dying slowly in that life, working myself to exhaustion for pennies, raising a child alone, never having enough, never being enough. And now? Now I'm terrified and traumatized and being hunted by criminal organizations across 3 continents. But I'm also free, powerful, actually able to protect the people I care about." She looked at him. "Is that wrong, to prefer the danger over the cage?" "It's human. We all choose our prisons, Lena. Some people pick safety. Some pick power. The lucky ones find something in between." They drove in silence for a while, the convoy maintaining precise spacing, professional, military. Everything about this operation screamed Jae-hyun's methodical planning. "Why did you really help me?" Lena asked. "And don't say it was about the money or honoring my mother. There's something else." He was quiet for so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, "Because I was you once. Nobody important, trapped in a life that was slowly killing me, serving people who saw me as expendable. And someone gave me a chance to be more than that, to build something that mattered." He glanced at her. "I saw that same potential in you, still do. The question is what you'll do with it." "I don't know yet." "Good. People who think they know exactly who they are stop growing. You're still becoming. That's dangerous for everyone around you, but it's also beautiful." The moment broke when Jin's voice crackled over the radio. "Lead vehicle, we have a tail. 2 cars, professional spacing. They picked us up 4 blocks ago." Jae-hyun's expression didn't change, but his hands tightened on the wheel. "Can you identify?" "Negative. Unmarked vehicles, no visible affiliations. Could be anyone." "Or everyone," Lena muttered. "How many organizations know we're moving tonight?" "All of them, probably. Someone always talks." Jae-hyun made a turn, then another, testing whether the tail would follow. They did. "Jin, execute Evasion Protocol 3. We're going to lose them before the highway." What followed was the most terrifying driving Lena had ever experienced. Jae-hyun pushed the SUV to its limits, taking corners at speeds that should have flipped them, running red lights, using every trick he'd learned in a lifetime of staying alive. Behind them, Jin and Marcus matched his movements perfectly, the convoy moving like a single organism through Chicago's arteries. The tail kept pace. "They're good," Jae-hyun admitted. "Very good. This isn't some hastily assembled response team. These are specialists." "So what do we do?" "We don't make it to Milwaukee. Change of plans." He grabbed his phone, made 3 calls in rapid succession, speaking in Korean too fast for Lena to follow. Then he addressed the convoy. "New destination. Everyone follow my lead. Stay tight. And when I say break, you break immediately. Understood?" A chorus of affirmatives came back. They were heading toward the industrial waterfront now, the same area where this had all started at Warehouse 7. But Jae-hyun bypassed the warehouse, driving instead toward a section of abandoned piers that looked like they'd been condemned since the last century. "Jae-hyun, there's nothing here. There's everything here." He pulled onto a pier that looked like it would collapse under their weight. It held, barely. "Trust me." The tail followed them onto the pier. No choice now. It was follow or let them escape. Jae-hyun drove to the very end of the pier where the wood gave way to open water. Lena's heart hammered. They were trapped, nowhere to go but backward into the guns of whoever was following them. "Everybody out!" Jae-hyun commanded over the radio. 30 seconds. Lena jumped from the vehicle as the other 2 SUVs pulled up alongside them. Jin was already helping Mikhail out of the wheelchair and into a fireman's carry. Marcus had Dr. Park. Evan clung to Lena's hand, silent as ever but trusting. The tail vehicle screeched to a stop 50 yards back. Doors opened. Men emerged with weapons, and from the water below, rising like a mechanical whale, came a submarine. Lena stared.
You have a submarine? I told you, contingencies. Jae-hyun was already shepherding people toward a hatch that opened on the submarine's deck. Everyone inside, move! They scrambled down into the vessel as bullets started flying. The submarine's crew, because of course Jae-hyun had a full crew, returned fire with precision, buying time for the evacuation. Lina was the last one down, jumping through the hatch just as something exploded on the pier above. Hae-hyun sealed the hatch behind her, and immediately the submarine began to descend. The interior was cramped but functional. Military surplus, Lena guessed, refitted for civilian use, or whatever you called smuggling people and resources beneath the notice of every law enforcement agency in existence. "Where are we going?" she asked, helping Mikhail into a seat while medics attended to Dr. Park.
Under Lake Michigan, through a channel that technically doesn't exist on any maps, and out to a freighter waiting in international waters. Jae-hyun was already consulting with the captain, a grizzled woman who looked like she'd been born on the water. From there we sail to South America. Different route than planned, but it'll work. Evan tugged at Lena's sleeve, pointing at a porthole. She looked out and saw Chicago's lights fading above them as they descended into darkness. The city that had been her entire world disappearing like a dream. The submarine journey took 6 hours. 6 hours of cramped quarters and recycled air and the constant anxiety that something would go wrong, that they'd be detected, that this would be where their luck finally ran out. But Jae-hyun's planning held. They surfaced alongside a container ship flying a Liberian flag, transferred aboard with practiced efficiency, and by dawn were steaming south through international waters. "It's really over," Dr. Park said from her medical berth, bandages covering half her face, but eyes bright with relief. "We actually escaped." "For now," Jae-hyun cautioned. "We're not safe yet. Won't be for months, maybe years. But we're alive. We have the resources to stay alive, and we're together. That's more than most people in our situation get." Lena stood on the deck watching the sun rise over endless water. Evan was beside her, drawing in his ever-present notebook. She glanced at the latest picture, a woman who looked like her standing at the helm of a ship, looking toward a horizon filled with possibilities. "You think that's my future?" she asked him. The boy nodded, then added something to the drawing. A crown. Not ornate or jeweled, but simple, made of flames and steel and determination. "A queen," Lena murmured. "Your mother wanted me to be powerful. Is that what you want too?" Evan considered, then drew something else. A heart, still beating, still human, beneath the crown. Power without losing herself. Strength without becoming monstrous. "I'll try," she promised. "I can't guarantee I'll succeed, but I'll try." The journey south took 3 weeks. 3 weeks of daily briefings from Jae-hyun about which organizations were still hunting them and which had been bought off with strategic payments from the stolen funds. 3 weeks of Mikhail teaching her the skills she'd need. How to read contracts, identify threats, think 10 moves ahead. 3 weeks of watching Dr. Park recover, seeing color return to her face and strength to her movements, and 3 weeks of Jin training her. Not just weapons anymore, but strategy, leadership, how to command respect from people who'd spent their lives in violence. "You have a choice ahead of you," Jin said during one particularly brutal sparring session. "You can take your share of the money and disappear. Live quietly somewhere remote. Raise Evan. Be nobody again. Or," Lena countered, blocking his strike, "or you can be what your mother was building you to be. A power in your own right. Someone who sits at the table where decisions are made instead of living in fear of those decisions." "Why would I choose that? After everything I've seen?" "Because you're good at it. And because the world needs people with power who still have consciences." He swept her legs, putting her on the deck. "Your mother stole from criminals. Imagine what you could do with that money if you wanted to actually change things. It was a seductive idea. Use criminal resources to fight criminals. Build networks that protected people instead of exploiting them. Become the kind of power that made the world safer for children like Evan. But it also meant becoming exactly what she'd been running from, stepping fully into the darkness and trusting herself not to lose her way. They made landfall in Colombia 3 weeks after fleeing Chicago. Not the tourist areas, but a private estate so remote it didn't appear on most maps. Jae-hyun's final contingency, a place he'd been building for years, waiting for the day he'd need to disappear completely.
The estate was beautiful in a fortress kind of way. High walls, sophisticated security, but also gardens and open spaces and rooms designed for living rather than just surviving. "Welcome home," Jae-hyun said as they passed through the gates. For however long home means anything anymore. Lena watched Evan run ahead, exploring with the cautious curiosity of a child who'd learned to check every corner for threats. Dr. Park was moving slowly, but under her own power now, marveling at flowers she didn't recognize.
Mikhail sat in his wheelchair, taking in everything with sharp eyes, already cataloging defensive positions and escape routes out of pure habit. And Lena felt something she hadn't felt since that night at Rosie's diner. Peace. Fragile and temporary, but real. The first month at the estate was about healing. Physical wounds knitting closed, psychological scars beginning to form the kind of protective calluses that let you function despite trauma. Lena spent her days with Evan, teaching him to read, watching him slowly begin to trust that this safety might last. His silence continued, but she'd learned to read his expressions, understand his gestures, communicate in the language they'd built between them. The second month was about planning. Jae-hyun had intelligence networks still operating, feeding him information about the shifting criminal landscape. Min-jung's death had created a power vacuum. The theft of the funds had destabilized multiple organizations, and into that chaos, new players were emerging, some worse than what they'd replaced, some marginally better. "We could influence that," Jae-hyun suggested during one of their strategy sessions. "Use our resources to tip the balance. Support the organizations that do less harm, undermine the ones that target civilians." "That's still choosing sides in criminal wars," Lena objected. "It's choosing the lesser evil, which is sometimes the only choice you get." Mikhail, having one of his increasingly rare good days, added his perspective. Sarah spent years trying to reshape the criminal landscape. She believed if you couldn't eliminate crime, you could at least make it more civilized, less brutal, more focused on profit than violence. "And look how well that worked out for her," Lena said bitterly. "She died, yes, but she also saved hundreds of lives through the organization she influenced. Children who weren't sold, women who weren't trafficked, drugs that weren't sold near schools." His eyes were distant, remembering. "She wasn't a hero, but she wasn't a monster either. She was something in between. And you want me to be that too. I want you to be whatever keeps you alive and lets you sleep at night. Everything else is negotiable." The third month brought contact from the outside world. Carefully vetted, heavily encrypted, but contact nonetheless. Representatives from various organizations requesting meetings. Some wanted to negotiate peace. Some wanted to hire them. Some wanted to buy information about other organizations. "We could make a fortune just selling what we know," Dr. Park pointed out. She'd recovered enough to reclaim her role as technical specialist, and her fingers flew across keyboards like she was playing piano. Every organization's financial details, their power structures, their weaknesses, were sitting on the most valuable intelligence cache in the criminal world. "Which makes us targets forever if we sell it," Jin countered. "Better to keep it as leverage. Information you might reveal is more valuable than information you've already sold." They were all learning to think this way, calculating angles, assessing threats, building contingencies for contingencies. Lena hated how natural it was becoming. The fourth month brought Lena's decision to a head. A representative from the Antonov Syndicate, the same organization that had killed people trying to get to her father, requested a meeting, not for revenge, surprisingly, but for business. "They want to hire you," Jae-hyun explained, showing her the encrypted message. "Specifically you, not me. They're impressed by how you orchestrated the theft. Want you to consult on their security systems, help them prevent similar attacks." "The people who tried to kill my father want to hire me. It's not personal. It's business. They respect competence regardless of previous conflicts." "That's insane. That's the world we live in now." Lena brought it to the group, the family they'd accidentally formed in fire and blood and desperation. Mikhail, Jin, Dr. Park, Marcus, even Evan with his silent wisdom. "What do you think?" she asked them. "Do I take the meeting?" "It's a trap," Marcus said immediately. "Probably," Jin agreed, "but it might also be legitimate. The Antonov Syndicate is practical above all else. If they think you're more valuable as a consultant than as a corpse, they'll honor that calculation. What would the job even be? Dr. Park asked. Lena pulled up the details. They want me to audit their financial security, find the holes someone like my mother would exploit, then help them close those holes. She laughed, bitter and sharp. They want me to undo everything my mother built. Or, Mikhail said slowly, they want you to understand their systems well enough to exploit them again later. Think about it. They're inviting you into their most secure operations, showing you exactly how they work. That's either supreme confidence or supreme stupidity. Or a test, Jae-hyun added. See if you're actually as good as they think you are. Prove yourself, and you become valuable. Fail, and you're just another pretender they can eliminate. Lena studied the message for a long time. Then she looked at Evan, who was watching her with those ancient eyes. The boy who'd survived impossible things, who'd found his way across an ocean to find his sister, who'd trusted her to keep him safe. If I do this, she said slowly, if I step into this world fully, I need to know it's for the right reasons. Not revenge, not power, but to actually build something better. Define better, Dr. Park challenged gently. A world where kids like Evan don't get hunted, where people like my mother don't have to steal billions just to buy their children's safety, where criminals still exist because they always will, but they follow rules that minimize innocent casualties. She looked around at each of them. Is that naive? Completely, Mikhail said. Also admirable. Your mother would approve. So would Sarah, Jae-hyun added. She always believed in strategic idealism. Change what you can, accept what you can't, and never stop trying to tell the difference. I'll take the meeting, Lena decided, but not alone. Jin comes with me, and we meet in a neutral location with full security protocols. Agreed, Jae-hyun said. I'll make the arrangements. The meeting was set for 2 weeks later in Panama City, neutral ground where multiple organizations operated openly. Lena spent those 2 weeks preparing like she was studying for the most important exam of her life. Learning criminal finance theory, understanding organizational structures, studying case files of successful and failed heists. She was becoming an expert in the very systems her mother had dedicated her life to undermining. The night before the meeting, she couldn't sleep. She found Mikhail in the garden, sitting in his wheelchair under stars that looked different this far south, brighter somehow, less obscured by city lights and northern clouds. Nervous? He asked without looking at her. Terrified. She sat on a bench beside him. What if I'm not actually good at this? What if the theft was just luck? Luck doesn't extract the second code from a psychiatric facility under active assault. Luck doesn't negotiate with a psychopath while a rescue team breaches from behind. Luck doesn't orchestrate the largest criminal wealth redistribution in modern history. He turned to face her. You're good at this, Lena. Frighteningly good. The question is whether you can be good at it without losing yourself in the process. How do I do that? Keep people around you who remind you who you are. Stay connected to Evan, to his innocence and need. Listen to Jae-hyun's strategic mind, but don't let it override your ethics. Learn from my mistakes without repeating them. He smiled. And never, ever forget that you were a waitress once. That you know what it's like to be powerless. That empathy will keep you human when everything else tries to make you monstrous. The Panama meeting went better than anyone expected. The Antonov representative, a woman named Katya with silver hair and eyes like winter, was professional, direct, and genuinely interested in Lena's expertise. We've analyzed the theft, Katya said, over coffee in a cafe that probably had more security than most banks. Your mother spent 7 years mapping our systems. You executed her plans in less than a week. That suggests either she was a genius or you are. Possibly both. It was her plan, Lena said honestly. I just followed the roadmap she left. Don't undersell yourself. A roadmap means nothing if you can't read it or lack the courage to follow it into danger. Katya slid a tablet across the table. This is what we're offering. 6-month contract. Audit our financial security, identify vulnerabilities, recommend solutions. Payment is $5 million plus operational expenses. And before you ask, no, we won't try to kill you. You're worth more alive, and we respect that calculation. Lena studied the contract. It was generous. almost suspiciously so. What's the catch? No catch, just expectations. We expect thoroughness. We expect discretion. And we expect that if you find vulnerabilities, you report them to us rather than exploit them yourself. Katya's smile was thin. Break that trust, and the contract terminates along with you. Honor it, and we have additional opportunities available. What kind of opportunities? The kind that reshape the criminal landscape. Your mother had vision, Lena Volkov. We're curious if you inherited it. Lena took the contract, read every word, consulted silently with Jin, who stood nearby. Then she signed. When do I start? Whenever you're ready. We're patient. I'll need a team, specialists in various fields. Hire whoever you need. It's in the operational expenses. They shook hands like civilized people conducting legitimate business, which, in a twisted way, they were. Walking out of that cafe, Lena felt something shift inside her. She'd made a choice. Not the choice to disappear and live quietly, but the choice to step fully into the life her mother had prepared her for. To be powerful, strategic, dangerous, but on her own terms, with her own ethics, building her own empire from the ashes of her mother's. How do you feel? Jin asked as they returned to their secure hotel. Like I just sold my soul, and like I might actually be able to buy it back with the profits. She laughed, slightly unhinged. Is that normal? For people in our line of work? Absolutely. The 6 months that followed were transformative. Lena assembled a team. Dr. Park for technical systems, Marcus for physical security, 3 other specialists Jae-hyun recommended. They audited the Antonov Syndicate's operations with ruthless efficiency, finding holes everywhere. Not because the Antonov were incompetent, but because her mother had been brilliant. Lena documented everything, presented her findings with professional detachment, and watched as one of the world's largest criminal organizations scrambled to implement her recommendations. She was good at this. Better than good. She had her mother's analytical mind, her father's strategic thinking, and something uniquely her own, the ability to see systems from both inside and outside simultaneously. The perspective of someone who'd been powerless and was now powerful. Word spread. Other organizations approached her. Some wanted security audits, some wanted strategic consulting, some wanted her to teach their people how to think like she did. Lena took the jobs that aligned with her emerging philosophy. Help organizations that dealt in vice but not violence, that ran numbers but didn't traffic humans, that understood crime as business rather than cruelty. She turned down the rest, and every rejection made her reputation stronger. By the end of the year, she'd earned more than $50 million in consulting fees. She'd established herself as a neutral party who could move between organizations without triggering wars, and she'd begun using that position to actually change things, negotiating truces, steering resources away from the worst activities, creating space for criminals to be slightly less criminal. It wasn't heroism, but it wasn't villainy either. It was something in between. Evan's 8th birthday came with a surprise. As Lena prepared a small celebration at the estate, the boy approached her with his notebook. He'd drawn something special, a woman teaching a group of children, showing them how to read, how to survive, how to be strong without being cruel. You want to go to school? Lena asked. He nodded, but then pointed at the drawing again. Not attend school, teach at one. You want me to start a school? Another nod. More vigorous this time, and so she did. Using her mother's stolen billions, Lena established the first school in what would become a network. Schools for children like Evan, orphaned by violence, marked by trauma, slipping through society's cracks, places where they could learn legitimate skills alongside the survival tactics that might keep them alive in a world that didn't care about them. It was Jae-hyun who suggested the name, the Chen Foundation, after the mother who'd stolen an empire to protect her children. Mikhail lived to see the first school open, though his good days were becoming rare. He died quietly in his sleep 18 months after they'd arrived at the estate, and Lena buried him in the garden under stars that had watched them heal. He was proud of you, Dr. Park said at the small funeral. Told me so during one of his last lucid conversations. Said you'd become exactly what Sarah hoped for, powerful without being corrupted, strategic without being heartless. I don't feel uncorrupted, Lena admitted. I've done things.
compromised in ways that would have horrified the girl I was. That girl was dying in a diner, trapped in a life that was killing her slowly. You saved her by becoming someone stronger. There's no shame in that. 3 years after fleeing Chicago, Lena returned. Not to the South Side, not to Rosie's diner. Both were too dangerous, too exposed.
But to a high-rise office in the financial district where legitimate businesses conducted legitimate operations. Or at least businesses that looked legitimate to anyone who didn't know where to look. She'd built an empire. Not the kind her mother had, hidden, fugitive, always running, but something new. A consulting firm that advised Fortune 500 companies on security. A foundation that funded schools across 3 continents. A network of contacts that spanned the criminal and legitimate worlds, allowing her to operate in both. The day she signed the lease on her Chicago office, she took a detour past Rosie's diner. It was still there, still serving terrible coffee to people who couldn't afford better. The same booth where Jae-hyun had first approached her sat empty. She didn't go inside, didn't need to. That life was done. But she made sure the diner received an anonymous donation that would keep it running for another decade. Small acknowledgement of where she'd come from. Jae-hyun had stayed in Colombia, running his operations remotely, but they spoke daily. Planning, strategizing, building something that transcended either of their original visions. "We've changed things," he said during one of their calls. "Not completely, not perfectly, but human trafficking in our sphere of influence is down 40%. Violent crime down 30%. We've created space for criminals to be less monstrous. And we've made ourselves targets in the process," Lena countered. "There are still people who want us dead. There will always be people who want us dead. But now we have the resources to make killing us more expensive than tolerating us. That's the best immortality you can buy in our world." Evan, now 9, had finally started speaking. Not much. Selective mutism didn't just disappear, but enough to communicate beyond gestures. His first words had been "thank you," spoken to Lena on a night when she'd chased away nightmares he couldn't escape alone. He attended one of the Chen Foundation schools now, excelling in ways that suggested he'd inherited his mother's intelligence along with her survival instincts. He wanted to be a teacher someday, he'd told Lena in carefully chosen words. Help other children like him. She'd promised to make that possible, had meant it with every fiber of her being. Dr. Park had taken her share of the funds and opened a technology consultancy that competed with the biggest firms in the industry. But she also quietly used her skills to help Lena's operations, to protect the Chen Foundation's networks, to ensure that the empire they'd built couldn't be easily torn down. Jean had stayed on as Lena's head of security, though he'd evolved into something more, a strategic partner, a trusted advisor, a friend who understood the impossible balance she was trying to maintain. Marcus had retired to a beach somewhere in Thailand, living quietly on his share of the wealth. But he still took Lena's calls when she needed advice on physical security, or when she just needed to talk to someone who remembered the person she'd been. 5 years after that night at Rosie's diner, Lena stood in her Chicago office looking out over the city. She was 32 years old, commanded an empire worth billions, had influence that spanned continents and bridged the worlds of legitimate business and organized crime. She should have felt powerful, triumphant. Instead, she felt tired, and aware that the life she'd built, while better than the one she'd had, was still a prison of sorts, just a prettier one with more comfortable bars. "You're thinking too hard," a voice said from the doorway. She turned to find Jae-hyun standing there. He'd flown in unexpectedly, something he did when he sensed she needed grounding. "I was thinking about choices," she said, "about the girl I was and the woman I've become, whether the trade was worth it." "Was it?" "I don't know. I'm alive. Evan's safe. We've built something that helps people. But I've also become exactly what I was running from. Someone who solves problems with money and strategy instead of justice. Someone who compromises with criminals because destroying them would be too expensive." "You've become pragmatic," Jae-hyun corrected. "There's a difference between compromising with evil and acknowledging that perfection isn't possible. You've made the world marginally better while keeping yourself and your family alive. That's more than most people accomplish. Is it enough? Only you can answer that." Lena looked out over Chicago again, watching lights begin to glow as evening approached. Somewhere in this city, a woman was probably serving coffee in a diner, struggling to survive, invisible to everyone around her. 5 years ago, that had been Lena. Now she was the kind of person who could change that woman's life with a single decision. A donation. A job. An opportunity. She pulled out her phone, made a call to the Chen Foundation's director. "I want to expand into Chicago," she said. "Find me buildings in the South Side. Areas where people are struggling. I want schools, job training programs, community centers, whatever it takes to give people options besides crime or desperation." "That's going to be expensive," the director warned. "Chicago's a tough market." "I can afford expensive, and I can afford tough. Just make it happen." She hung up and turned back to Jae-hyun. "Is that enough? Probably not. But it's what I can do, so I'll do it." He smiled. Sarah would be proud. "Everyone keeps saying that. I wish I could remember her enough to know if it's true." "Want to know a secret?" Jae-hyun moved to stand beside her at the window. "Your mother wouldn't care if you were proud of her. She'd only care if you were proud of yourself, if the life you built was one you could live with. Are you?" Lena thought about Evan, thriving despite his trauma, about the schools educating thousands of children who'd otherwise have nothing, about the criminals she'd steered away from their worst impulses and toward less harmful enterprises, about the people she'd saved by being strategic rather than idealistic. It wasn't the life she'd imagined at 27, but it was a life that mattered. "Yeah," she said finally, "I think I am." A year later, Lena stood in front of a different window in a different city, Monaco this time, where she'd been invited to speak at a conference on financial security. The invitation had come from legitimate sources, banks and corporations who valued her expertise without knowing the full scope of where that expertise came from. She'd almost declined. Public speaking meant exposure, and exposure was dangerous in her line of work. But Evan had encouraged her. "You can't hide forever," he'd written in one of his notes. He still preferred writing to speaking when the subject was serious. At some point, you have to decide if you're building something that can last or just surviving until someone takes you down. "I think you're building. Time to act like it." So she'd accepted. The speech went well. She spoke about security architecture, about thinking like an attacker to build better defenses, about the psychology of protection. Everything she'd learned from auditing criminal organizations packaged in language that sounded purely theoretical. Afterward, people approached her with business cards and opportunities. Some she accepted. Others she declined politely. And one woman, elderly and elegant, simply said, "Your mother would be proud." Lena stopped. "Excuse me?" "Sarah Chen. We worked together many years ago. I was one of her contacts in the legitimate financial world. She used to talk about you, about the life she hoped you'd have. This," she gestured at the conference, "the opportunities, the empire Lena had built, is better than she dreamed." "You knew her?" "Not well. Sarah didn't let many people know her well, but I knew enough to recognize her daughter. You have her eyes, and her gift for seeing systems others miss." The woman handed Lena a card. "If you ever want to talk about her, about the person she was before everything went wrong, call me. The past deserves to be remembered, even when it hurts." She walked away before Lena could respond. That night, Lena did call. And over the course of several conversations, she learned about her mother. Not the criminal mastermind or the theft architect, but the woman. Someone who'd loved fiercely, planned obsessively, and sacrificed everything for children she'd hoped would never need those sacrifices. It helped. Not completely. Nothing could fill the hole where memories should be. But it helped Lena understand that her mother had been more than her worst actions. Had been complex and flawed and human, just like Lena herself was becoming. 10 years after fleeing Chicago, Lena hosted a different kind of gathering at the Columbian estate. Not a war council or a strategy session, but a celebration. The Chen Foundation had just opened its 100th school. Evan, now 16, had been accepted to university with plans to study education and psychology. Doctor. Park had won a major industry award for cybersecurity innovation. They were thriving, actually, genuinely thriving. The party was small, just family, if you could call the collection of criminals, consultants, and reformed operatives family. But they'd bled together, survived together, built something impossible together. That made them family in the ways that mattered. Jin proposed a toast to Sarah Chen, who stole an empire, to Mikhail Volkov, who protected it, and to Lena, who turned it into something worth protecting. They drank to that, to the dead and the living, to the past and the future, to the girl who'd served coffee and the woman who now commanded rooms full of powerful people with quiet authority. Evan pulled Lena aside as the party continued. "I have something for you," he said, his voice still quiet but steady. He handed her a small wooden box. Inside was a necklace, not the locket her mother had given her. That was long gone, dismantled for its codes. But something new. A pendant carved from dark wood showing a tree with roots that went deep and branches that reached high. "Where did you get this?" Lena asked. "I made it, in woodshop." He was blushing slightly, proud and embarrassed. "It's supposed to represent you, roots in where you came from, branches reaching for where you're going, still growing, still becoming." Lena put it on immediately, feeling the weight settle against her chest where the old locket used to rest. "It's perfect." "Thank you." "Thank you," Evan countered, "for saving me, for keeping me safe, for showing me that we don't have to become the worst things that happen to us." "We're still becoming," Lena reminded him. "Both of us. Who knows what we'll be in another 10 years? "Hopefully alive," Evan said with a rare grin. "Everything else is negotiable." It was something Mikhail used to say. Hearing it from Evan's mouth made Lena's throat tight. They stood together watching the party, this found family celebrating impossible survival. And for the first time in a decade, Lena felt something she'd almost forgotten existed. Contentment. Not happiness, that was too simple a word for lives as complicated as theirs. But contentment. The sense that she'd made choices she could live with, built a life that mattered, protected the people she loved while staying true to something essential in herself. The girl from Rosie's diner was gone, burned away in fire and blood and transformation. In her place stood someone stronger, harder, more capable of violence and strategy and cold calculation, but also someone who built schools, who protected children, who used power to create space for others to survive. A queen Evan had drawn in his pictures, crowned in flame and steel, but still with a beating heart beneath it all. Still human. Still becoming. Lena touched the wooden pendant at her throat and smiled. This was her empire now. Not her mother's, not her father's, hers. Built on blood and stolen billions, yes, but maintained through something her parents had never quite mastered. The belief that power could be wielded without becoming monstrous. That you could sit at tables with criminals and still sleep at night. That the world's complexities demanded complex responses. She would never be a hero. The choices she'd made, the compromises she'd accepted, the blood on her hands, those disqualified her from that simple category. But she wasn't a villain either. She was something harder to define, something more interesting. She was Lena Volkov, daughter of thieves, sister to a silent prophet, builder of empires and schools and futures, and she was just getting started. The party continued into the night, laughter and music drifting through the Columbian estate. Somewhere in Chicago, the first Chen Foundation school in the South Side was being built. Somewhere in Panama, a criminal organization was implementing security recommendations that would make them less vulnerable to the kind of theft her mother had perfected. Somewhere across 3 continents, children who might have been lost were learning to read, to survive, to dream of futures beyond violence. All of it connected, all of it part of the strange empire she'd built from the ashes of her mother's final gift. Jae-hyun found her later, standing alone in the garden where they'd buried Mikhail. Having second thoughts? Always, Lena admitted, but also knowing that second thoughts don't change what needs to be done. Spoken like someone who's learned to carry the weight. Is it always this heavy? The responsibility? The knowledge that your choices affect hundreds of lives? Always, but it gets easier to bear when you remember why you're carrying it. He gestured toward the party, where Evan was teaching one of the guards a card trick, while Dr. Park argued cheerfully with Marcus about encryption protocols. That's why. Those people. The ones who trust you to keep carrying it. Lena watched her found family, these people who'd become her anchor in a world of shifting loyalties and profitable betrayals. They'd all been broken in different ways. They'd all made choices they couldn't take back. But together, they'd built something that deserved to survive. My mother spent her life preparing for a future she'd never see, Lena said quietly. Planning for children she couldn't protect directly. Building contingencies for disasters she couldn't prevent. Do you think she knew That it would work out like this? I think Sarah Chen planned for every possibility, except the one where you turned out better than her wildest hopes. Jae Hyun's smile was genuine. She wanted to give you safety. You turned it into purpose. That's not what she planned. It's better. Maybe he was right. Maybe the point wasn't to fulfill her mother's exact vision, but to use the tools Sarah had provided to build something uniquely her own. A legacy of stolen billions transformed into schools and safety and second chances. It wasn't redemption. Blood money stayed blood money regardless of how you spent it. But it was transformation, and in a world as broken as theirs, transformation was its own kind of miracle. The wooden pendant warmed against Lena's skin, reminder of growth and becoming. She was 32 years old, had lived more in the past decade than most people lived in lifetimes, had been broken and reformed and broken again until she'd learned to be both hard enough to survive and soft enough to care. She touched the pendant one more time, then returned to the party. To Evan's laughter and Dr. Park's fierce intelligence and Jae Hyun's steady presence. To the family she'd chosen and who'd chosen her back. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new organizations to navigate, new threats to counter, new children to protect. But tonight, she was allowed this. Celebration, contentment. The knowledge that she'd taken the worst inheritance imaginable and forged it into something that might actually make the world fractionally better. Not a hero's journey, not a villain's rise, something more complicated and more real. The story of a woman who'd been given fire and learned to make it forge steel instead of only destroy. Who'd inherited an empire of shadows and built towers of light with the prophets. Who'd become powerful without forgetting powerlessness, strategic without losing compassion, dangerous without becoming a monster. Lena Volkov, queen of an empire built on blood and second chances, still becoming, still fighting, still human beneath the crown. And that, she decided, watching her family celebrate survival against impossible odds, was enough. More than enough. It was everything.